I pledge my eternal gratitude to any law nerd who would edit and combine original Emily's live coverage of this trial with Sidebars coverage at specific moments. That sounds like a doctoral project.
Okie dokie, welcome everybody to day 19 of the trial. Here we are in Virginia, and we'll go ahead and get started. Day 19, here we go. The bailiff all rise, please be seated and come to order. The court, all right, good morning, Mr. Chu, good morning, Your Honor. The court, do we have any preliminary matters before the jury comes out? What do you guys think, if you want to take a guess? Do you think it's a yes? Do you think it's a no?
Oh, preliminary matters. Wait, no. Why can't I hear you today, Judge A? Oh, hold on. This is why I can't hear. I can't hear. Oh, there we go. Judge A asked for any preliminary matters.
Mr. Rottenborn, just a couple, Your Honor. The court, all right. Mr. Rottenborn, may we approach? The court, yes, sir.
Preliminary matters are probably going to be talking about potentially what witnesses we have coming up.
Sidebar, Mr. Rottenborn. The first one is Your Honor requested a set of the order for the jurors. The court, everybody signed on this? Mr. Chu, yes. Mr. Rottenborn, yes, Your Honor. The court, I'll sign on this. Mr. Chu, I read it carefully. The court, I'm sure. I'm glad you took your time. Mr. Rottenborn, we just added the one paragraph at the end about, the court, okay, get that order out. Okay. Mr. Rottenborn, thank you. The court, all right. Next, Mr. Rottenborn. And then we just wanted for Racquel Pennington's deposition, there's going to be a number of photos shown, and we just wanted to address any issues before. The court, all right. Mr. Rottenborn, I think what Ms. Myers and I had agreed on when we did the deposition designations is we didn't bring the photos in front of Your Honor. We just said any testimony that Your Honor allows in that references a certain photo, that photo comes in. The court, that photo will be shown. Mr. Rottenborn, but I wanted to just make sure we're all on the same page. Some that have been plainly admitted into evidence as they're going to be shown. The court, alrighty. Mr. Rottenborn, and then there's a group that were shown to Ms. Pennington that Ms. Myers and I agreed would come in if Your Honor lets the testimony in. The court, sure. Mr. Rottenborn, that has the stamp on them. Ms. Myers, so I think we're going to take the same position yesterday that there's a lack of foundation for including the metadata. Court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, and we would argue two things. Number one, that wasn't what we agreed on when they came in, so this is a different witness. We agreed that the pictures would come in. We never discussed, Ms. Myers never objected to the metadata coming in when we made the agreement several weeks ago. So that's the first argument, court, okay? Mr. Rottenborn. The second argument, Your Honor, is that I know we handed up some case law, but the court, I know, Mr. Rottenborn, but these are plainly not hearsay under the Cadem versus the Commonwealth. The court, I understand the hearsay, but the problem is the foundation part. Actually, you keep saying metadata. This actually isn't metadata. This is just from an iPhone, which I can go in and I can change my listings for these on my iPhone, and it will show up as a different date and different location. Metadata is something that is extracted from the phone and is with the file, and it would show that I had changed the location. That's metadata. So, Mr. Rottenborn, okay, the court, I understand you keep calling it metadata, but your position is it's metadata. My position is it's something that can be changed. Judge, hey, look at you. Sorry, when they send judges to computer forensic school down in Alabama, these things happen. Oh my God, that's amazing. Mr. Rottenborn, I don't envy you having to go that far. Nice try, trying to change the conversation. The court, it's the industry. Ms. Braddock, but Ms. Heard did testify that she put those on here. She gave the foundation testimony. This is amazing to me because how many times have we heard her say this? I mean, 500 times this far? Like, she was, we knew she was a broken record about like a number of things, but reading these sidebars, it's really eye-opening just how many more things. And this probably is one of the top 10 here about this whole spiel about Amber Heard providing foundation testimony for metadata, which, according to Judge A, it's like they're not even using the word correctly in the first place. So, wow. The court, well, I understand that, but again, anyway, that's my ruling, Mr. Rottenborn. Okay, the court, on this. Mr. Rottenborn, Your Honor, I just wanted to make a record on that. The court, I appreciate it. Mr. Rottenborn, can I take one more shot at this? The court, okay. Wow. So generous. Mr. Rottenborn, Mr. Depp, you'll remember, he introduced the two pictures of him with alleged bruises on his face that very clearly had this on them. He testified that one was taken by Sean Bett. The court, Mr. Rottenborn, and that's of a different nature than this, I believe. So we believe, at a minimum, if the jury, number one, we believe that they've waived this by agreeing to these by agreeing to these coming in as is. But the court, well, I mean, this is the problem with depositions. It's same thing with you wanting to de-designate things. Exactly, right? She said this before. It's a strange situation. Mr. Rottenborn, I understand. The trial is fluid. Mr. Rottenborn, I totally respect Your Honor's decision, but we would ask that this be published. That's of a different nature than that. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, all it does is show the time. The court, all right. Any objection to these? Ms. Myers, I mean, I think we've moved our objection of having them come in. Same with the ones the other day, that the ones that they're referring to, they didn't object to the timestamp at the top. The court, well, I understand, but I mean, what would be the objection to the timestamp? Mr. Rottenborn, that's plainly metadata. Mr. Moniz, so he's making a comeback appearance here, this guy, because I think it was like day 2 the last time we saw him. Mr. Moniz, yeah, but can't that be changed in the same way? The court, that, I don't know. Didn't cover that in my class. Mr. Rottenborn, I mean, the case law says that in order to get rid of metadata, they have to do more than assert that it could be changed. They have to, the court, I understand. Well, I still don't think it's metadata. I'll allow it at this time, but we can get rid of that, okay? Mr. Rottenborn, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Chu, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rottenborn, we don't need to go through every exhibit. Your ruling applies to each of them. The court, that's fine. Mr. Rottenborn, are you comfortable with that? The court, for the record, do you want to name the exhibits or do you want to just, Mr. Rottenborn, I think we'll just take them as they come. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, if you all noticed anything we can come up with, the only exhibits with Ms. Pennington are photographs, and there's several that have already been admitted without metadata, and the ones that have to have them admitted, the court, are you going to show them during the deposition? Judy is going to get mad at you. Mr. Rottenborn, that's the first time I've done that. Yeah, we'll show them, but we'll have this redacted. The court, okay, thank you. Huh, so is he saying like this is the first time he's pissed off Judy? I'm not quite sure. Let me go back. Are you going to show them during the deposition? Judy's going to get mad at you. That's the first time I've done that. Oh, maybe he's joking that it's the first time he's made Judy mad. That's probably what it is. Yeah, we'll show them, but we'll have this redacted. The court, okay, thank you. Back to open court. Back to open court.
Here's the thing we saw yesterday. We saw a lot of tension between Amber Heard and her legal team. I do not have any love lost for Elaine Umbridge. You know that I don't. Yes, her last name is Bredehoff. Yes, I know that. But the style of cross and the way she came out hot for numerous people in this trial and the way she almost mocked them and kind of talked down to them and the way she did her opening statement put me off at the beginning. Oh, they're trying to bring in different depot exhibits, it looks like. Then we had different testimony from Racquel that they have done cocaine together. It looks like she's taking a selfie. I'm sure that's not what's happening, but it just looks like the beginning of this depot is her with her phone. This is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing her with her phone like this. It just looks like she's taking a selfie. That can't be what's happening on the screen, but that's what it looks like to me.
Did you ever witness Mr. Depp throw anything at Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever witness Ms. Depp kick Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp physically injure Ms. Heard, cause her an injury?
I didn't see it.
So that's a no, right?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
Objection asked and answered.
Your Honor, at this point, I start asking Ms. Pennington some questions. So we'll play that, but maybe we just approach to just get straight on some exhibits, please.
Okay. Let's get straight on some exhibits.
Sidebar. The court, all right. Mr. Rottenborn, I just thought, since in light of our conversation earlier, since we'll have to use, I guess, e-versions of these exhibits, I'll just put them on the record, what they are, and then we'll get the court copies. The court, okay, sure. Mr. Rottenborn, so the exhibits that we'll be redacting in the way Your Honor directed this morning will be 700B, 701B, the court, okay, 701B. Okay, you guys, go ahead and get your Jeopardy music ready in your heads here for the background, okay? Just, you know, do, 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 and I'll go ahead and read off all these lovely numbers. Mr. Rottenborn, 700B, the court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, 702B, 703B, 704B, 708B, 710B, 714B, 718B, 719B, 720B, 721B, 722B, 723B. And then there's 2 exhibits that haven't yet been admitted into evidence. That wasn't so bad. The court, okay, Mr. Rottenborn, these are 797 and 799. They don't have metadata on them. The court, okay, so they'll be as is, Mr. Rottenborn. They're both just e-versions of the picture of Miss Heard, and I believe it's Jody Gottlieb in the courthouse. In the courthouse. Miss Vasquez in the courthouse. Do you have a picture? Mr. Rottenborn, I don't, but Miss Myers and I agreed that those would come in. Miss Myers, the ones in the courthouse, that's fine. The court, so no objection to any of those exhibits, all those in evidence. Mr. Rottenborn, and we'll get you copies. Miss Vasquez, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rottenborn, sure, thank you. Back to open court.
We are almost at 400K with 96,000 law nerds watching. Thank you so much. I find the numbers very satisfying. We're going to answer some questions. I called the police one time during the fight between parents. I remember everything, extreme clarity. Oh my God, you guys, even though it was 3 decades ago, even the cleaning up. Oh my God, you guys. that happened faster than anticipated. Thank you. We're just gonna keep that up for a minute. Did we see Camille question Whitney? Different lawyers. That was Camille questioning, and then we're gonna switch to Rottenborn questioning. You guys, this is crazy to watch. Thank you so much for your support. That's a big bang. Absolutely. Thank you for the support. Okay, we need to go back to court. I'll pull this up again later. You guys, that's crazy. Thank you. I mean, it's going to click right back over again.
Are we ready to start?
Yes, sorry.
You guys, thank you.
Yeah.
Back to video depots. The sub numbers were frankly much more exciting today. I'm happy to have all of you here. Law nerds, thank you.
Tell me what you can remember about the instances when he said that.
It woke everyone up. We're like, oh, he's like, fuck, yes.
My understanding was that he
Johnny admitted to hitting stuff.
Was sorry and apologetic and
For what?
for his behavior.
When you say behavior, what are you referring to?
Isolation is very common.
Verbal arguments, physical
Amber
arguments.
was not isolated.
And that was what he made clear to you in things that he said to you. Is that right?
What he made clear to me in our conversations was that he was very sorry and that he was working to get clean and get better, and that he was asking for forgiveness and trying to think that he was going to get better.
In all of these, it seems like Depp is apologizing for his addiction.
Did you ever see him get better?
Apologizing for his anger or verbal fighting. But I've never heard anyone or Depp apologize for getting violent.
A lot of times.
The only person who has yet apologized for
did
that
you ever see
is
him
Heard.
get better permanently?
No.
Your Honor, at this point, we start questioning Ms. Pennington about May 21st. We're happy to keep going, but if you're
Please keep going.
I think we're about halfway through this volume.
Okay.
Oh,
let's go ahead and take our
through
morning
this
recess for 15
volume?
minutes. And not discuss the case with
Rottenborn.
anybody and don't do any outside research, okay?
No, Rottenborn, no. We're halfway through this volume. That means there's another one. Oh, I can't do 2 volumes of this. All right, let me make this a little bit bigger. They're bringing the jury back into the room. Judge A feels this way. Judge A is like, the fuck? This is the most patient judge I've ever seen. I've never seen a judge this patient.
Is there anything that you would change about any of the testimony that you've given today or previously about any of these events?
No.
Yeah, my eyes get much more swollen from crying than we've seen in any of these pictures.
Every time you've testified about this,
the face swells when you get punched.
The full truth about everything that you know, everything that you saw, everything that you heard, everything that you've observed, right?
I have done the very best to tell the absolute truth.
She's emotional about that.
Exactly as I remember it at all of the points of time.
Are we done?
Yes, sir. Your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. That concludes the testimony of Racquel Pennington. Ms. Heard calls Joshua Drew as her next witness.
Okay.
And if we may approach just to discuss a couple exhibits.
And that's by deposition, is that correct?
It is by deposition,
All right.
yes, Your Honor.
Sidebar, the court. All right, just going over these jury instructions. Can somebody decide who's going to be alphabet and who's going to be numbered? Because you are both numbered. It's very confusing, Mr. Rottenborn. You mean one of us should be A and one of us should be 1? The court. Yeah, can we do that? Mr. Rottenborn. We'll be the alphabet. Wow. It's funny how he had a very strong opinion about that. The court. It makes it a lot easier when we go through them. When we're talking about 25, who's 25? I've been down that road before. Mr. Rottenborn. We'll letter ours. He really wants to be the alphabet. The court. Okay. Mr. Rottenborn. This is another one. Miss Myers and I agreed that it's just pictures that are coming in, and the pictures, anything that there's testimony about can come in. The court. Okay. Mr. Rottenborn. The only, and most of them have already been admitted. There's a few that haven't, but we'll get those to you and get those to the court, the ones that haven't. The court. Do you have numbers for me for the ones that haven't been, just so we have it for the record? Mr. Rottenborn, I do. Court. Okay. Mr. Rottenborn, I believe that this is 1493H. Okay, guys, Jeopardy, get your Jeopardy music ready. The court. 1493H, 1493H. Mr. Rottenborn, 1493F. The court, 93F. Mr. Rottenborn, 1657. The court, 1657. Okay, Mr. Rottenborn, and I believe that's 1493R. The court, all right. Mr. Rottenborn, 1384, 1384. Like an auctioneer. The court, 1384. Okay, going once, going twice, sold. Mr. Rottenborn, 1373A. The court, all right. Mr. Rottenborn, 1377. The court, all right. Mr. Rottenborn, and 1373. And I believe that those are not admitted, but they're just pictures in by agreement. Okay, you guys, you can pause the Jeopardy music. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, and then there's a couple more. The court, so there's no objections to those. Ms. Vasquez, they're just pictures. Mr. Rottenborn, yes, these are the only pictures we're using. The court, all right, no objection. Mr. Rottenborn, all right. Mr. Chu, these were all from Josh Drew. Mr. Rottenborn, all from Josh Drew. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, and then there were 2 that were shown to Mr. Drew without any metadata. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, we prepared to show the versions that were admitted yesterday with the metadata redacted, so it's the exact same image. The court, just the same picture that is already in evidence. Mr. Rottenborn, correct. 701 and 702. The court, okay, they're already in evidence. Mr. Chu, but redacted. Mr. Rottenborn, correct. Mr. Chu, consistent with your ruling earlier. The court, is that 701B then? Mr. Rottenborn, no. We're going to pull up the one that was admitted yesterday. We're just proposing rather than just to show the version that's already been admitted. The court, what's the difference between 701 and 701B? You did 701B earlier today. Yep, I remember that one. Mr. Rottenborn, because the top date time was on there. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, I think we'll just pull up the one used yesterday. The court, okay. 701, okay, it's in evidence. Mr. Rottenborn, then the last thing is there's 5 exhibits. This is Defendant's Exhibit 400, and there are 5 photos that were texted to Kevin Murray. And so what we would propose is to redact the entire text and just show the photos. The court, just show the photos. Mr. Chu, they were sent to Kevin Murphy from Josh. Mr. Rottenborn, I think so. Ms. Vasquez, can I see that? Ms. Bredoff, actually, I think they were sent by Whitney. Mr. Rottenborn, oh, by Whitney. They were shown to Mr. Drew in his deposition. The court, so just the photos? Mr. Rottenborn, yes. We just have a version of this that's redacted. Ms. Vasquez, why can't you use the photos? And why are you, Mr. Rottenborn, because this was what was shown to Mr. Drew in his deposition. Ms. Myers and I just agreed that if he's being questioned about the photos, the court, do you already have the photo in evidence somewhere else? Ms. Vasquez, no. Mr. Rottenborn, no, but that's what we're saying. Ms. Vasquez, I don't think that's appropriate, Your Honor. These are screenshots of text messages between 2 different people, not Mr. Drew. The court, so the only thing that we'll be able to see, though, is just the photo. Everything else is redacted to protect the Mr. Rottenborn, sure. Ms. Vasquez, all of this, the messages, the court, okay. As long as everything else is redacted, just the photo, yeah. Mr. Rottenborn, yeah, we'll redact them. So we're clear, we'll redact all of this. Mr. Chu, what about the date? Mr. Rottenborn, I'm happy to redact that. Ms. Vasquez, yeah. The court, then down at the bottom, okay, and that's 400. Mr. Rottenborn, yeah. Ms. Bredoff, should we call that, Mr. Rottenborn, yeah. Ms. Bredoff, should we call that 400A because we're going to, Mr. Rottenborn, let's say 400A. Ms. Bredoff, Whitney is going to be on this afternoon and we're going to put that exhibit in through her. The court, okay, 400A. Mr. Rottenborn, yes. The court, and is that all? Mr. Rottenborn, yes. The court, so all of those are together. Mr. Rottenborn, yes. All of that comes in together as 400A. The court, so no objection to the redactions in 400A. Ms. Vasquez, no. Mr. Chu, no, as redacted. The court, okay. Mr. Chu, and all the dates. The court, all the dates, everything except the pictures. Mr. Rottenborn, yes. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, well, thank you very much. Ms. Vasquez, thank you. Ms. Bredoff, the running time on this one is 58 and some seconds. The court, that's perfect. We'll break for lunch after this is over. You're doing good. Okay, I'll thank you. And back to open court.
And we are back for the afternoon. We are going to see a live witness after lunch after depo testimony this morning. The judge is taking the bench And we are just about to call the next witness and find out who it is. That's my biggest question right now. Who this new witness? Who's this?
We'd like to call Whitney
There we go.
Henriquez to the stand.
All right.
Amber Heard's sister.
They're saying horrible things to one another. Fuck you. You know, he's calling her a fucking whore, fucking cunt, used up trash bag, you know, whatever. They were saying horrible things to one another. She was calling him old and fat. It was a fight. They were saying really nasty things to one another. I leave them in the kitchen to go up the stairs, was trying to calm Amber down, hopefully get her back into my apartment. And Debbie had come up with me.
And Debbie, who's Debbie?
Debbie was his nurse at the
Debbie
time.
Lloyd?
Yes, I believe that was her name.
Okay.
So we're with Amber on the mezzanine level.
I'm sorry, just so we know who where is. Is it you and Debbie that are with Amber, or is it?
Yes, Debbie, Amber,
This
and I
might
are
be
all in the
nerves.
little mezzanine
This
area.
moving forward. This might
And as
be
I mentioned, the
nerves.
mezzanine overlooks the kitchen and the living room. So Johnny then hurls a Red Bull can and it hits Debbie in the back.
This is
She
the
didn't
staircase
even
incident.
react. She didn't really seem to notice. But I'm standing up there talking, or I'm standing up there, I'm at the top of the stairs with my back to the stairs. And that's when Johnny runs up the stairs. And again, I'm facing Amber. He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my fucking sister." She smacks
hits her
him,
now?
lands one. And then he grabs, at that point, that's when Travis runs up the stairs after Amber landed one. But by that time, Johnny had already grabbed Amber by the hair with one hand and was whacking her repeatedly in the face with the other as I was standing there. Travis pulls them apart. I get Amber into mine. I close the doors behind me and lock them. I then hear Johnny's voice shouting.
Never mind. Withdraw. Okay, sorry.
I hear Johnny's voice shouting, I fucking hate you. I hate you both. You fucking cunts. You fucking whores. And I hear crashing. I hear crashing and banging and smashing. And he starts screaming like an animal. And I then just moved Amber into the next room and I just kept her there all night. The next day I go and I see her closet has been completely destroyed. Racks were overturned. Yeah, one of the clothing racks have been like tossed down the stairs. There was art off the wall. And down in the kitchen, there was broken glass. The place was destroyed.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 400?
She is going rapid
Whitney,
fire.
do you recognize this text exchange here?
I do.
Okay, and it's on March 23, 2015 at 6:57, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, could you describe, just identify it, please?
After Australia, he would have.
All right, you want to approach? Let's take a look.
Oh, look who's back. Miss Leclerose is also making another comeback appearance. The court. All right, you want to approach? Let's take a look. Sidebar. The court. I don't know who this is between. Who is this text between? Miss Bredhoff. This text between her and Nathan Holmes. He's a business manager. Miss Leclerose. It's Kevin Murphy. Miss Bredhoff. Yeah, Kevin Murphy, who is his house manager at that point, Your Honor. Miss Leclerose. I have it here. Michelle's getting it for me. Thank you. The court. She's very good at it. Other way. Miss Bredhoff. What I'm proposing, Your Honor, this is a text message. I've taken out the part that says what Johnny did. The court. That's probably supposed to say you here. You haven't taken it out here, but okay. Miss Bredhoff, you're right, but I propose that the rest of it is not offered to prove the truth of the matter. Oh, dear. Oh, here we are. We know what's coming here, right? The court, what's it offered for? Miss Bredhoff, offered to show she took these pictures of the closet and was sending it to him. Miss Leclerose, she didn't say that she took the pictures, Your Honor. The court, I don't see what the relevance is if it's not offered for the truth of the matter. I don't see what the relevance is for the words. Miss Bredhoff, just showing that and it is also, right, of course, there's always a backup. It is also an excited utterance of saying that you're a fucking see you next Tuesday. Right there, in case you're curious. The court, I'll sustain the objection. The pictures, though, is fine. Miss Bredhoff, can we have the dates? Because that's when. Miss Leclerose, I don't have an objection, Your Honor. The court, okay, no objection. You can show the dates. Take the words off. Is that all the words on it? Miss Bredhoff, some more down here. The court, take all the words off down into 400. We already have 400A in evidence. Miss Bredhoff, yeah, We made that 400A. The court, so this would be 400 with redactions. Ms. Bertoft, right. The court, okay, thank you. Ms. Bertoft, thank you, Your Honor. Back to open court. Back to open court we go.
So this is after Australia. His hand would have been in a cast, which was what Depp's team had pointed out in other testimony. If his hand was in a cast, how was he grabbing hair and punching? He was recovering from MRSA, pins in his cast. And if he was punching someone in the face with a cast, then why wasn't there more visible injury?
Can we publish, Your Honor?
Yes, his hand would have been wrapped.
Thank you.
How does she remember every detail from years ago?
So,
It's a good
Whitney,
question.
this is dated March
After Australia.
23rd, 2015, 6:57. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's to Kevin.
Who's Kevin?
Who's Kevin?
Kevin Murphy, he was Johnny's estate manager.
Okay. And then Michelle, if you can scroll up. So let's stop at the first one. Can you please describe to the jury what this is?
That is one of Amber's clothing racks on the stairs that lead up to the bedroom area.
Okay. And you took this picture?
I did.
Okay.
I thought
Michelle,
this
can
was
you
from
scroll up
December.
Again?
I thought this was the December. I thought the closing racks
Please
were
describe
December.
for the
I'm
jury
so
what's
confused.
depicted in this photo.
These are more of Amber's racks. These were her shoes and purses and such. Those were all like taken off the walls. And you can see here all of her clothes are on the floor.
I don't see everything taken off the walls. These
Okay,
look
thank
freestanding, but okay. I mean, okay.
And we're up to the next one. Could you please describe what the next picture depicts?
More of the same, clothing racks that have been kind of toppled over or moved. They were like neat. It looked like it's a closet room, but these ones were just toppled over and moved. This is the room that adjoined my room. So.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. And could you describe for the jury, please, what this is?
That's another clothing rack that has been taken down and taken apart, kind of.
Taken apart. It looks pushed over.
Okay.
But all right.
And we'll go to the next one. And please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
More clothing racks that have been taken down, moved.
Okay. Just tell the jury what your observations were of how these statements impacted
How did
him.
you know it's the statements, though?
Objection, Your Honor.
It calls for a conclusion.
Compound, lack of foundation,
Calls for
speculation.
conclusion.
Overruled.
It's all the
Thank
things.
Amber has worked so hard to overcome everything that she went through in the duration of their relationship. She has really, really tried her best to move past it. And
This is moving past it.
anybody that knows Amber at all knows that
This is non-responsive.
some of the most important things to her are honesty, integrity. Her reputation is all she has. She doesn't have
She said.
piles of money and private islands or
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh, it's
Non-responsive.
so
I
non-responsive.
sustain the objection.
Please
she
continue
was
with what
she was devastated by
She
these.
sustained the objection.
It,
Are they wearing best friend
to
necklaces?
say that they're not true, it devastated her. And also we had just buried our mother. So Amber, she started having panic attacks
They are.
randomly. She
They're
was
wearing
not
matching
sleeping.
necklaces.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
That is hearsay.
These are your
Over-
observations.
overruled.
Thank you.
How did she
Please
observe her
continue.
not sleeping? Damn it. I needed a picture of the
These
necklace.
statements devastated her. They devastated her because they weren't true. And
How do you know that? Okay.
they were just very, very, very much affecting her.
And you talked about panic attacks. What else did you observe that she would do as a result of these? A physical.
She would just periodically just break into tears. She, I don't know how else to describe it. She was so unwell. She stopped sleeping again. She was super anxious. She couldn't relax. She couldn't sit still. It was very similar to the Amber that I had seen back in 2016 as she was trying to get out of this relationship. It launched her back into this space where she was just so physically unwell, and she cried a lot.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Wow, that was fast. That was really fast. They moved in and out on that. That that was actually better than Amber Heard's direct, but they moved very, very
Good afternoon, Ms.
quickly.
Enriquez.
Very quickly.
We haven't met before. My name's Rebecca Lecaros. I'm one of the lawyers representing Mr. Depp in this case.
What up, Rebecca?
Turning to the staircase incident in March 2015.
So interesting.
You testified that Mr. Depp allegedly hit you during that incident, right?
Yes.
But you aren't sure if that contact was even meant for you, right?
I honestly don't. I don't know what he was aiming for. My back was to him.
And you weren't injured
Maybe.
during that incident, right?
No, I wasn't.
And you didn't seek medical attention?
No,
And you said Debbie Lloyd was there during all of that, correct?
she was.
And Mr. Depp's security, Travis McGivern, was there too?
Yes, he was.
And you saw your sister hit Mr. Depp on the stairs that day, right?
After he struck me, yes.
This is much more consistent on cross, the way you look
said
at the
she landed
questioning
one, right?
attorney.
And then the next day you found some damage in the adjoining penthouse.
Correct.
And we saw some pictures of what you saw that day, right?
Yes.
I don't think they need to be aggressive yet
You
on
thought it was
cross.
important to
There's no reason
document that
to.
damage,
I think
right?
this is a good tone
Not to
for cross.
document. It was Kevin's job to kind of clean up the houses, take
that
care of
makes
the
sense.
houses. I took pictures just so he could be aware of what he would need to bring.
Please clean this up.
I didn't know if he had tools here or whatever. I was just preparing him for what he was going to have to fix.
That makes
But
sense.
you didn't take any pictures of your sister that day, right?
No, I didn't.
Now,
She does. She
after
seems
March
more relaxed.
2015, you continued to have a close relationship with Mr. Depp, right?
This is a good pacing for cross.
Yes,
And you still loved him.
of course.
And you were there for him if he needed you, right?
Of course.
And in fact, just a couple of weeks after that staircase incident, you were still acting as the marriage counselor, weren't you?
Yeah, an aggressive
some
cross
point,
is
sure.
not a good play here. Unless it needs
And-
to.
That fall, after the staircase incident, October 2015, you claim you had seen Mr. Depp hitting your sister. And then in October 2015, you were actually still trying to reconcile him and your sister when they were fighting, right?
Interesting.
Yes, I was asked to support. I was just trying to help what I thought they both wanted. I was just trying to support, or trying my best to support them the way that I thought I could.
You still love
That's
Mr.
fair.
Depp at that point, right?
I did.
You love
And
someone
you
who
didn't
beats up
think
your
that
sister?
he and your sister were past the point of no return, right?
What I thought was irrelevant at that point. I really, those two were in love and they were working very hard. They wanted to be together, it seemed like. So
What they both wanted, yep.
I just helped as best as I could. I don't know how else to describe it.
Your sister still wanted to be with Mr. Depp, right?
And she loved him.
And you didn't think they were past the point of no return.
I don't know what you mean by that exactly.
Okay. Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 1283. It's not yet in evidence. We'll just show that to the witness.
Such affable
this,
chemistry for opposing counsel. It is.
If I might approach, Your Honor.
It's
I have this
interesting.
in, redacted and unredacted.
But-
The court. Okay, if you want to come forward for a sidebar. The court. Plaintiffs 1283. Ms. Bredoff. First of all, this has never been produced to us. Ms. Liquorose. This is from the defendant's records. The court. Okay, so what are we looking at? Who is this between? Ms. Liquorose. This is between Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp. The court. So Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp. So these are her statements, and then he states, Ms. Liquorose. So go to the third page. Ms. Heard says, I love you both. Quote, I love both of you so much. I would fucking stay out of it if I thought this shit was past the point of no return, but that's not where you guys are at right now. End quote. Sorry, those two blue ones right above the green. Ms. Bredoff. So first of all, it doesn't impeach because she said she doesn't know what she means. The court. She said she was helping them, so what are you offering it for, Ms. Liquorose? So she said that she didn't say that they weren't past the point of no return, Ms. Bredoff. She didn't testify to that. She testified that she wasn't sure what you were getting at there, the court. She testified that it wasn't her place to say. She was just being supportive, so this is something different. Ms. Bredoff, first of all, you can't introduce documents for impeachment of a third-party witness, so it's not admissible. At best, she can put it in front of her and she can read it to her, but she can't put it into evidence. Ms. Liquorose, that's what I said. The court. Are those the only ones you're looking at? Ms. Liquorose, I just realized I have a redacted copy. I didn't redact the other messages. We can take care of that. The court. If you're not going to produce it into evidence, that's fine. She's just going to read it. Ms. Liquorose, I'm going to read it to her. Ms. Bredoff, just the two? Ms. Liquorose, yes. The court. Good. Thank you. Ms. Liquorose, 1283. Back to open court.
Enriquez, if I could just direct your attention,
Sorry.
if we can go to the third page, please.
Do I have control of this or no?
No, you
I
do not.
think
Sorry,
she
we'll
meant
put it up for you.
Rare occasion that she was sober during this period of time
And-
when this was all going on.
We can go back
Maybe.
to the first page if you'd like, or we can take a look at the unredacted version if we need to. But do you recognize these as text
Everybody's
messages
got
that you
clear
sent to
glasses.
Mr.
Am
Depp
I-
on October 2nd, 2015?
Do I need clear reading glasses? Do I need new frames? Everyone has the same kind of clear glasses.
Yeah, vaguely. I mean, they're clearly my text messages, but yeah, I recognize them, I think.
Okay. And if we can go to the third page, please, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
And you'll see the second blue box from the bottom there. You texted Mr. Depp and you said, I love both of you so much and would fucking stay out of it if I thought this shit were past the point of no return. But that's not where you guys are right now. Did I read that right?
Oh, but that's not where you guys are at.
Yes. So you didn't think they were past the point of no return in October 2015, right?
Not
At
hearsay.
that point, clearly, I didn't.
This is cross. So this is, she didn't say that. So this
Take
is
that down.
impeachment. Like, oh, but you did say that. So that's why.
My name is Melanie Inglessis.
And Ms. Iglesias, what
Whoops,
is your
it's me
occupation?
first. I'm a makeup artist.
Makeup artist.
You, in fact, are a professional makeup artist, correct?
Good.
Correct.
When did you first meet Amber Heard?
Well, the pacing of this is better.
April 2015.
So, do you know whether Amber Heard took any steps to reduce
She bites her lip a lot.
swelling?
She does. We've seen
during
it.
This, in preparation for the James Corden show.
Yes, she took arnica, and we had an arnica gel.
Took?
I always have arnica gel in my kit anyway, and she had arnica gel. She used arnica gel.
Not Amica
and some
cream.
ice.
Elaine.
And what does arnica gel do?
Arnica
with respect to
gel,
swelling?
Elaine.
I use arnica gel in my kit to bring any swelling area of my client's face down.
And how does that typically
Can I use it
work?
under my
What's your
eyes?
experience?
It just brings the swelling down. I mean, not drastically, but it does. It helps with
But
the
wait.
swelling a little bit.
Can I use it under my eyes? Wait, no, questions.
All right.
Yes,
I'm
sir,
in my
we have
40s.
Another video.
Okay, if you could approach for a moment, let me just.
Certainly.
Certainly. They're approaching because they want to see how much time is left on the next witness and determine how much left is going on, I imagine, or to give them an idea of how much time is left.
Sidebar. Court. All right, how much time? I'm sorry, I have jurors falling asleep. Oh my God. So I had Lisa go over there and nudge him. So I just want to make sure, Miss Bredoff, the next one is 40 minutes, the court. I'm giving them time to stretch too, so we can sit up here and talk. That's what they're doing right now, so we'll just stay up here a few moments to chat, Miss Bredoff. So the next one, 40 minutes and 14 seconds, the court. Perfect, we can get them done today. Perfect, depositions. I haven't got the time for some depositions from you, Miss Bredoff. I talked to Sammy because Planet Depp posted all of them, the court. Right, Miss Bredoff. And I told him I would check with them, the court. Well, I still don't have some from the last a couple weeks ago, Miss Bredoff. I thought we got those to Sammy, Mr. Chu. I thought so too. We'll double check. The court. Make sure. I'm going back looking at the times. I'm missing all the officers one from that day. They're short ones, but I think I'm still missing it. So if I can get them tonight, because I want to give you an accurate time for tomorrow, but I can add those into the times, okay, Miss Bredoff? Okay, the court. But we're a little ahead of schedule, so I might be able to give you a couple extra hours. But if I know tonight what they are, I can tell you tomorrow what you have left. And at the end of the day tomorrow, I can tell you what you have left. Okay. Miss Bredoff, I thought we had, I'm pretty sure we have them, so we will figure it out. The court. Sammy just doesn't have it, Miss Bredoff. Okay, we will go back. The court. We went back, checked through his emails and everything, so we'll get that. And you're going to give me the jury agreements, and for tomorrow, the jury instructions, the agreements, and the objections tomorrow morning. Miss Bredoff, yes. The court. Do you think that's enough time for them? Do you have anything else going on? How's everybody doing? Do you think they got enough time to stretch? Oh, so cute. She's asking about the jurors. That's good. That's so considerate. Mr. Chu, yeah. The court, okay, thank you. Miss Bredoff, thank you, Your Honor. The court, Back to open court.
Oh, everybody's very jovial up at the bench. Look at everybody. Everybody seems to be in a good mood. They're like, we get to just sit here and listen to depos. The hard work for the depositions is done in advance of this moment. They spent, and the judge said one day they were there till after 9:30 p.m. with all of the attorneys in the room going through the depositions, and they have to go objection by objection on the depos, have the court rule on them, and then make the marks of where they're editing. And that takes quite a lot of work. So that's what they had done in previous weeks, and then they were finished with them. So they agree, and they did it during trial. They agree during trial on what edits, what objections, and the court rules on the objections, but they're all agreeing about something. And again, these attorneys, though there have been moments, they have seemed to work well together. The court has reminded them, I'm not here for your finger pointing and whatever else. So good morning. Good morning. We are together again. I am calling court to order.
All right, guys. So today it is December 1st, 2023, and I'm here recording this sidebar, reading this sidebar from day 20 of the trial, May 19th, 2022. And I had a little idea. Maybe I'll start each day with a little like a holiday themed trial song. Like, I don't know. I just thought of this idea right now. Have yourself a merry little sidebar. And that's as far as I got. Okay.
Apparently, the UK does not use donated and pledged synonymously, and her lack of financial motive weighed heavy on the judge as the decision maker. So if they investigate her for perjury and find she lied, maybe that opens the door, but I don't know how that would work in the UK system after the appeals had been denied. What is this stream doing? Don't get brazen with me, stream. Thank you. We don't have time. We don't have time for the fuckery this morning. I am uncaffeinated. Do not mess with me this morning. Coffee has flown in from the side. I was too tired to figure out what was going on. Wait. Why did the entire legal team just leave? Y'all, why did the entire legal team just leave? Why did the entire legal team just leave? They all got up and left. Court is supposed to be starting 5 minutes ago. This court never runs late. The court reporter is there. Why did the entire legal team just leave? Where did Runkle go? Why is the legal team leaving? This is from today. That's Amber Heard's hair from today. That's the next witness up. Why are people leaving? Oh, what is happening? I'm going to have to go look on Twitter in just a moment. There's James from court, who's also on Twitter. I'm now fixated. I don't know why the entire legal team just left. I don't know why the audience is leaving. What is happening? Something is happening in this court, and I don't know what it is. Huh. That's very odd. You've got this entire legal team that has gotten up to leave for something. And now you've got a lot of people flooding out of court. I'm going to go see if Runkle's on Twitter. This is something we've never seen from court. And it's just surprising, again, when you get to something different. I don't know what's happening, and I don't know why it's happening. It's odd. She seems to be in a good mood this morning. She does. I think that of all of the days of trial, yesterday was Amber Heard's best day of trial. And if you're watching a trial to watch what happens, and if you're watching the trial not to confirm the side that you're rooting for, but to see what the fuck is happening in court, I want to see what this jury sees. I want to understand. I want to be where the people are.
I want to be where the people are.
Start time will be 9:30. A juror is running late. Judge A is now on the bench.
Good morning, Judy.
Judge A has a very big composition
Thank you.
notebook.
Apologize. We had a delayed juror, but now we have all the jury. So we're good to go.
And
All right,
that's
we have
the
preliminary
first
matters.
time that's happened.
All right. Sure.
Proceedings. The bailiff. All rise. Please be seated and come to order. The court. Thank you. I apologize. We had a delayed juror, but now we have all the jury, so we're good to go. Do we have any preliminary matters? New tradition. What do you guys think? You want to guess? Yes or no? Going once, going twice. Miss Burdoff. Yes, Your Honor. Sold to Elaine. The court. Sure. Sidebar. Mr. Nadelhoff, Your Honor, I'm not sure if you saw my email. The court, I did. Sammy emailed it to me, Mr. Rottenborn. It's deeply troubling. It appears to be, I know it's up to you, a blatant violation of the court's order. The jury, I don't know where they park. I assume they park in the public garage. They walk past that. And just have deep concerns about the integrity of this process when things like that are happening. Court, all right, Mr. Chu, Your Honor, if I may be heard, I can give a little context. I will apologize, but if I can put it in context, the court, sure. Mr. Chu, the night before last, Ms. Vasquez got a very serious death threat. I know there are other threats going back and forth, but it was very serious. It was after her cross-examination of Ms. Heard. Our email and computer systems were compromised and hacked. Some of Mr. Depp's data was stolen. The firm made us surrender our phones. So yesterday, I surrendered my phone, gave it to my assistant. What happened was I went down a little earlier while we were cleaning out the break room. I went down alone, and I didn't have my phone. I was waiting for my assistant to come and bring me the phone. We couldn't contact the gentleman who was driving us to and from. I was surrounded by 100 people, and it was a little, not scary, but it was a little overwhelming. So finally, the driver came, and Camille and the rest of the team came out. And we asked our technician to take a private picture of us with the alpaca. The court, which is still against my order. Mr. Chu, I apologize, but it's completely my fault. I was taking a picture for my boys who I haven't seen in 5 weeks. I apologize. No excuse. It's not prejudice. There's no disrespect. In fact, I don't see how it's prejudicial. Court, you can see if jurors are coming out and you're doing pictures with alpacas. You can understand that, Mr. Chu. I do understand that, Your Honor, and I do apologize. But I don't think that happened, and we were surrounded, and we contacted some people to escort us from now on. The court, yeah, you probably shouldn't go out there until your car is ready. Mr. Chu, we won't. And yeah, I was just thinking, well, how would he know? He needs a phone, right? Mr. Chu, we won't. And that's why I mentioned the phone, because I literally did not have my phone because it was being fixed. It still hasn't been fixed. Our assistant has to come back again today at lunchtime and get it fixed. The court, okay, you're getting escorted too, right? Are they escorted? Mr. Rottenborn, we have been some days a little less, fewer people, but some days we have. The court, okay, Mr. Rottenborn, but obviously there's no excuse for it. It's horrible that Ms. Vasquez received a death threat. We've received them too. The court, I know you have. Mr. Chu, we get called. Mr. Rottenborn, that doesn't address the court. I understand, Mr. Rottenborn. It wasn't just Mr. Chu who was posing for pictures. He was also taking a picture of Ms. Vasquez. And I get that it's tough, but we just have, and I'm not going to impute that notice to Mr. Chu and Ms. Vasquez, but Mr. Depp's online army of support is zealous, to say the least, and when things like this go viral, it only makes it harder for the jury to avoid. The court, I understand, Mr. Rottenborn, it's just a blatant black and white violation of the court's order. The court, okay, you're obviously on notice from now. Mr. Chu, yes, Your Honor. The court, there will be sanctions if it happens again. Ooh. Mr. Chu, yes, Your Honor. The court, you need to figure it out. I don't want you, if people are videotaping, you can't be standing there when people are videotaping. Mr. Chu, we won't. The court, you can't be engaging with them. It's going to be silence the whole way. Mr. Chu, understood. The court, in cars, gone. I don't want to see any grandstanding whatsoever. Mr. Chu, we're not leaving without having our driver there. The court, it just can't happen again. Mr. Chu, I understand. The court, additionally, it was brought to my attention this morning, so I just want to get this on the record also. There was an employee's kids out on the balcony in the back chambers area that when you're at the judge's lot, you can see this balcony on the 5th floor. There were kids out there yesterday when people were coming in, and they were videotaping the arrival of your clients. One of the kids posted it on TikTok. I found it this morning. It's been removed from TikTok, and nobody can go on that balcony again for the duration of this trial. But since it happened, I wanted to let you all know. I wanted to let you all be aware of it, and I have dealt with it. Mr. Chu, thank you, Your Honor. The court, very sternly. I want to make you aware of that as well. Mr. Chu, thank you, Your Honor. The court, anything else? Mr. Rottenborn, yes. Mr. Dennison had the court. Good morning, Mr. Dennison. Come on in. Join the party, Mr. Dennison. Join the sidebar pool. The water's fine. Mr. Dennison, thank you, Your Honor. This is a procedural issue. One of the witnesses that's on the witness list today, Adam Berkovici, was designated solely as a rebuttal witness by the defendant, and we never put on the expert that would be the court. More people are coming, Mr. Dennison. The subject of the rebuttal, Mr. Rottenborn, Your Honor. Let me hear that one again. Mr. Dennison, thank you, Your Honor. This is a procedural issue. One of the witnesses that's on the witness list today, Adam Berkovici, was designated solely as a rebuttal witness by the defendant, and we never put on the expert that would be the court. More people are coming. Mr. Dennison, the subject of the rebuttal. Mr. Rottenborn, Your Honor, Mr. Treese filled in to do his examination, and that's why I called him up. He was just saying that, and I don't mean to interfere. Mr. Dennison, no, Mr. Rottenborn. He was just saying that, the court, he was just designated as a rebuttal witness. Oh, here's Mr. Treese, okay? Mr. Treese, yeah, he's designated, and I'll show you the designation, the court. If he's only designated as rebuttal, Mr. Treese rebuttal to the facts, the court. Facts of what? Mr. Treese. To the facts that the officers presented. So there's the designation. So these are rebuttal witnesses. They put on the officers in their case in chief to say that the officers saw this, and the officers concluded that there was no evidence of domestic violence. The court, okay, the beginning of it says Mr. Bercovici, and I'm sorry, Mr. Treese, Bercovici. The court, yeah, I'll just call him Mr. B. Yeah, I'm with you, Dr. A. I almost called her. I'm with you, Judge A. Mr. Treese, yes, the court will provide a rebuttal opinion to plaintiff's expert, Racquel Frost. Mr. Treese. And then it goes on to say, quote, and he will testify, end quote, because here's what happened. The court, no, that's the designation. Mr. Treese, but Your Honor, it is a rebuttal witness to the court, Racquel Frost, Mr. Treese. So in their case in chief, they put on evidence. He is rebutting the court. That's the designation. That's what it is. Sorry, sir. Mr. Dennison, thank you, Your Honor, the court. All right, are we ready for anything else? All right. Open court.
Oh, I can't do this. Look at her face. I can't do this. Counsel, kindly, what the fuck is this? He's like, what if any way could we get this admitted? Yeah, counsel, that's not a cure-all. There is no what if any way. So that's my ruling. Take it back to your seats. We got to get started. We're half an hour late now. Kindly fuck off. Okay, bye. No, she would never say that. Judge A is not the
Are we ready for the jury then?
Kind.
The bailiff will all rise. Recess taken from 10:57 a.m. to 11:15. I'll tell you what, of all the trials, I have never seen any trial where they stuck. Like, usually it's like they say a 15-minute break and it's like God only knows how long. Like, I mean, literally 18 minutes. And you have to imagine it probably took a minute and a half for the jury to walk in and out. Like a minute and a half to walk in, a minute and a half to walk out, right? So there's your 3 minutes. Like, that's crazy. And every single sidebar where it has these times, it's the same thing. The lunches are short compared to like other trials. Everything's very punctual. I've literally never seen such a tight ship with the time. The bailiff will rise. Oh, I already read that part. Oh wait, he says it again. The bailiff will rise. Please be seated and come to order. Actually, is it a he or a she? I think it's a he. The court. All right, are we ready for the jury? Mr. Moniz, Your Honor, may I? The court. Okay, do you want to approach?
It's the highest tech fucking courthouse ever. I mean, I worked in LA. Our courthouses were not high tech.
Okay, if you want to approach.
Emily, do you startle at loud noises? Yes. Do I?
Do you want to approach for a sidebar? The court. All right, yes. Mr. Moniz, Your Honor, this relates to the exhibits for Mr. Waldman. Oh, that's right. It's Mr. Waldman Day. The court. Okay, what did you do to your finger? Maybe I don't want to know. Mr. Moniz, like a complete idiot, I bumped into a wall. I can relate to that. Miss Bredhoft. He ran into Mr. Depp. What? The court. You're trying to show something here. I don't think that's weird. Mr. Chu, it's the same finger too. I don't think Emily read this one. I think she read the morning one with the alpacas, but this is, I don't even know yet. This is something. Mr. Chu, it's the same finger too. Yeah, wow, huh. The court, I noticed that. Mr. Moniz, ironic. The court, yes, ironic. Yes, sir. Wow. I'll say. Mr. Moniz, this relates to the counterclaim statements that are coming through, Mr. See, okay, hold on. Immediately, when I was reading this and it was like, what do you do to your finger? I was like, finger? And I'm like, that's weird because Johnny's finger, right? And then he's like, I bumped into a wall. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then he's like, or then Elaine's like, he ran into Mr. Depp. And I'm like, okay, it's getting weirder. But now it's the same finger as well. So, okay, there we go. Mr. Moniz, this relates to the counterclaim statements that are coming through Mr. Waldman. Your Honor's already ruled on this to some extent with Ms. Heard, and I understand we don't go back. The court, don't go backwards, but you can preserve the record, Mr. Moniz. So we would move into evidence, move for the admission of 881A, 881B, and 881C. And those are the articles that contain the counterclaim statements. The court, right, Mr. Moniz, I appreciate Your Honor has already ruled that this is hearsay. Just want to touch very briefly on a couple of the court. You can, just for the record, because obviously I mean, Mr. Moniz, I understand we don't go back. All right, it sounds like maybe he's trying to go back just a little bit. Oh, it just popped into my head. I knew it. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Objection, hearsay. It's a statement being offered for the truth. Objection, hearsay. It's a statement that was made outside of court. Objection, hearsay. It's overruled. The statement's coming in. It's not offered for the proof. It's not offered for the proof. Did I read this? I don't even know what I'm doing. Oh, right. I was reading this. Okay. Jesus Christ. Christmas song rabbit hole. That's what that is. The court. But defamatory statements can be in context to your own statements, but he didn't know what the articles were going to say or how they were going to print in the article. Mr. Money is right. It is relevant to a couple of points. First of all, it is relevant to show that he was speaking to reporters. That's who the statements were made to. The reporter then went on to write articles that presented both sides of the story and present his statements as the statement of one side of a two-sided story. So that, we believe, is evidence the reporters were knowledgeable of the circumstances and did not accept things at face value. The other point I would like to make, Your Honor, is it is relevant to the damages that these two statements are buried at the bottom of lengthy articles. The articles have all sorts of bad things about both parties. We believe it goes to the plausibility that Ms. Heard claims she suffered $100 million in damages, Jesus Christ, from these specific statements. These are statements that appear in the context of articles that lay out all sorts of other things about the parties. We believe that's relevant to the damages issue, and the jury ought to be able to consider the way these statements actually appear in context in assessing her claim that she suffered $100 million in damages from these statements from Mr. Waldman. Court, you're saying there are other bad statements in there for damages purposes of hers for her? Mr. Moniz, you have Ms. Heard's lawyers for her, yeah. Right, her previous lawyers. For her, yeah, I mean, yeah, they talk about, I mean, I have copies of the articles here if Your Honor wants to look at them or not. They lay out here, there are transcripts of specific, for example, recordings, articles. The articles talk about how she admitted to punching and so on. The court, okay, didn't this already happened? I am very confused. This already, oh, right, because now they're talking about using it in conjunction with Adam Waldman. Okay, that makes sense. The court, okay. Ms. Bredoff, same arguments as to before. He had no idea what was going to be placed in there at the time. So that's not pertinent to it. And the second thing Your Honor has ruled consistently and also against us, we can't put in other articles that are negative or other statements that are made negative about Amber Heard. We can bring them up and put titles in front of them, but the court, which was done in cross-examination, I'll sustain the objection, but you have your record. Mr. Moniz, thank you, Your Honor. Back to open court.
Do you think the articles regarding Miss Vasquez and Depp dating are somewhat disparaging to her talent as a lawyer? Sarah, not somewhat. I think it's fucking appalling. Turning her amazing performance into like, oh, is she dating the celeb is just fucking gross. She is a boss and she should not be like, nobody's asking if Rottenborn's dating Amber Heard. Why not? Why is no one asking if Rottenborn is dating Amber Heard? Why? I think it's sexist. I think it's misogynistic and I think it's gross and I hate it because she's a young, attractive woman who has been a boss for her client and they have shown friendliness towards each other. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be friendly. They've been doing this for years. She is fighting for his reputation and his voice. I would hope they would be friendly. Wouldn't you? Amber Heard's allowed to be friendly with her team. Nobody's saying she's dating anybody. It pisses me the fuck off. I could go off on this for a little bit longer, but I'm just going to rein myself in. Do you think the jury will think something of Depp looking jovial during the trial, dealing with DV and SA? They could. They absolutely could. I said after, and I think I was quoted.
All right, we ready for the jury then?
Maybe by Insider, talking about Depp being quippy could backfire on him, but that also might get reset after seeing Heard's testimony.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Bredehoff, and together with Ben Rottenborn, we represent Amber Laura Heard. Will you please state your name and address?
Sure. It's Adam Robert Waldman, Washington, D.C.
I've called Mr. Waldman all kinds of other names. Adam, Alec, Allen.
I'm also involved with a skincare company in a variety of capacities.
What? Good afternoon. Court of Law Nerds is now in session. All the attorneys back up at the bench.
Okay, here we go. Another breaky dindle. Alrighty. Oh, this is after the lunch break. Okay. So they have check that out. I mean, less than an hour for lunch. Look at this. I hope you can see my cursor. 59 minutes for lunch. My word, I don't even know. That is, you better snarf down that sandwich real quick. All right, the bailiff, all rise, please be seated and come to order. The court, all right, are we ready for the jury? Should we play the guessing game, or do we already know? Mr. Rottenborn, just one matter, Your Honor. Always. The court, scratch that out and put always. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Time for another sidebar. Sidebar time. Actually, that's not Christmas themed, is it? Have yourself a merry little sidebar. The court. Got everybody again. I don't know what that means. Mr. Rottenborn, we understood Your Honor's ruling this morning on Mr. Bercovici. We didn't think of the full sequence of how things got in. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, so I understand your ruling, but just wanted to get the full sequence. The court, that's clear, that's fine. Mr. Treese, Your Honor, the first thing we wanted to show you, the court, I thought just getting the sequence, I already made my ruling. Mr. Treese, oh, I understand. I was just saying the disclosures were originally due on the 10th. Our initial disclosures were wait, I just said that. Sorry. Wait, he does repeat. I was like, hold on, what's happening? All right, let me just back up. Mr. Treese, oh, I understand. I was just saying the disclosures were originally due on the 10th. Our initial disclosures of the experts, so defendants on the 10th did disclose Bercovici on the 10th. And then, following that disclosure, we supplemented to add this information that he's going to testify independent on the issues with respect to the LA. The court doesn't say independently. Mr. Treese, well, they then submitted their disclosures indicating that they're going to put Frost to rebut Bercovici. So essentially, they've got supplemental disclosures after this that say they're going to put Frost up to rebut Bercovici. I have those as well. Court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn. And I think the one that appointed, that says the disclosures that were due on the second set of disclosures that they claim was in rebuttal was also our initial disclosures on the counterclaim, since the issue of the May 21st hoax goes directly to the counterclaim. I think that's also for Your Honor to consider that Bercovici could have been disclosed for the first time in relation to the counterclaim, because that's not, Mr. Treese, in the entirety of his opinion, he's not going to testify as to Frost. He's going to testify as to the experts, as to the officers, as outlined in his report. The court, I have to go by the designation. She's like, gentlemen, I hope you're having fun, but it is what it is. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, one of the very first lines of the, they're still going at it. One of the very first lines of the disclosure says he's here to rebut Frost. Mr. Treese, that before it was, I guess they're missing a word, likely, probably should have a was there. That was. Mr. Treese, that was before it was supplemented. Following her deposition, we weren't sure if they were going to call him or not. But what they've done is they've reserved her for rebuttal. They've got rebuttal after this, so they can call Frost after this. The court, just talking about your designations now. Mr. Treese, sure. And our designations, so there's the problem Oxford, comma here. Oh, interesting. Okay, so there's the problem Oxford, comma here, but the point being rebut Frost, and then it says, quote, and will testify that 2 sets of LAPD officers did not follow policies, comma, procedures, comma, or best practices, period, end quote. The court, definition of rebuttal expert is that they rebut an expert from the other side, correct? Mr. Treese, and part of what I was getting at with the schedule and all, the court, answer my question. Wow, Mr. Treese is really skating on thin ice here. Mr. Treese, oh yes, part of a rebuttal expert is that they rebut evidence and or experts. So they're rebutting, they've got the burden of proof, and we're rebutting what they think they're using to establish the burden of proof. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, I think you've ruled the language is clear. The court, okay. Mr. Rottenborn, I think that last part is the clearest point, that they have the burden of proof on falsely. The court, it still says rebuttal expert, okay? Mr. Chu, thank you, Your Honor. The court, okay, let's go. Thank you. Back to open court.
All right. Shout out to you.
Your next
Happy
witness.
studies. Next witness. Who's it going to be?
Call Ron Schnell. Please introduce
What
yourself
water
to
is
the
it?
jury.
I'm Ron Schnell.
Ron?
And what is your current job title, Mr. Schnell?
I'm a director at Berkeley Research Group.
Your Honor, at this time, I tender Mr. Schnell as an expert in the fields of statistical and forensic analysis of social media.
I think
Any
we're good.
objection?
Your Honor, can we be heard?
Really?
Voir dire?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can voir dire.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is a good example for talking about how the sidebars work. So, okay, let's see. Oh, they're doing, interesting. Okay. This is voir dire. Oh, okay, interesting. All right. Very good. This is voir dire. So this is an expert for Amber Heard's team, right? And so this says, so we've got voir dire examination by counsel for the plaintiff and counterclaim defendant by Mr. Dennison. So it's essentially like cross, right? But it's voir dire. So by Dennison here. All right. My name is Wayne Dennison. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You made here an analysis of certain tweets and hashtags, right? Oh, right. I remember this guy. Yes. And you made no effort. Right. That's right. This was a mess. And you made no effort to connect those tweets and hashtags to the statements made by Adam Waldman. And then Mr. Nadelhoff objects here. Objection. The court. I'll sustain the objection. The voir dire is just for his qualifications as an expert. Well, yeah, that's true. Mr. Dennison, can we be heard, Your Honor? So Mr. Nadelhoff objects. It's sustained. Now, this is actually a good example. So, but Mr. Dennison says, can we be heard? So the judge ruled, right? So in this case, I would say, the action is being taken by Johnny Depp's team, Mr. Dennison, right? So that's initiating this upcoming sidebar. So we'll see what happens, then we'll talk about it.
Really? Is it because most of his work is not in forensic analysis?
Sir, my name's Wayne Dennison. Good afternoon.
They're challenging him as an expert.
You made here an analysis of certain tweets and hashtags, right? Right. And you made no effort to connect those tweets and hashtags to the statements being made by Adam Waldman.
I'll sustain the objection. The voir dire is just for his qualifications as an expert.
It is, Wayne.
Can we be heard, Your Honor?
If you want to come forward.
That's fine.
That's so odd.
If you want to come forward, that's fine. Mr. Dennison, thank you. Sidebar. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, this witness is subject to one of the motions in limine, and your ruling to this witness is that only evidence showing the nexus of damages may come in through this witness. The court, right? Mr. Dennison, and all I was trying to do is ask 4 questions to see if he actually has any damages nexus. The court, that doesn't have to do with his qualification, whether he's qualified as an expert or not. So if you don't have an objection to him qualifying as an expert, you'll have to cross-examine. I mean, you can object to if they go into any areas outside of damages, Mr. Dennison. That's right. I was just asking the court. That's not what voir dire is for, though. Do you have any objection to moving him as an expert? Mr. Dennison, no, obviously he's qualified. The court, well, that's where we're at right now. Mr. Dennison, okay. The court, okay. If you want to ask something really statistical, I'm sorry, Mr. Nadelhoff, statistical and forensic analysis of social media. The court, forensic. Mr. Nadelhoff, analysis of social media. The court, analysis of social media. Thank you so much. Mr. Nadelhoff, thank you. So I can just start. The court, I'll ask him if he accepts him. And back to open court.
Okay, so what's happening is that this is my face too. They are challenging him as an expert on his qualifications as to statistical analysis of social media. Clearly, he has an AI background, but they are challenging not this witness as a proper witness, but they are challenging him as a proper expert, which is interesting to me because I can't imagine that he's not a proper expert. But whatever happened up at the bench before this witness took the stand is interesting. I just don't know why they would try to not challenge him as an expert, but the questions started to be questioning his testimony in the case, which is completely inappropriate. You should only be asking about his qualifications. You've testified 8 times. How many times have you testified with regard to social media analysis and statistics? Did you do your work? Can you be an expert? He went outside of the realm of that, which just looks kind of desperate, like you're trying to block this witness, which does not look good.
So then she asks, do you have any objection to moving him in as an expert? He says no.
All right. So, Mr. Dennison, do you have any objection to him moving in as an expert?
No.
Let's use this as an example. This is for you, unknown speaker. Okay, so Mr. Dennison's on cross, right? And then Mr. Nadelhoff objects. And the court, Judge A, sustains the objection. But let's say Mr. Dennison, on Depp's team, right, feels like if she just had a little more information, she might rule differently on that. So can we be heard? If you want to come forward, that's fine. And this is what we were talking about for those of you who were there for the previous live, where it's kind of whoever's like initiating that motion, right? So Mr. Dennison's like, can we be heard, right? So they come forward. So now it's kind of like on him, right? So then this is when, like we discussed before, like they can bring in supporting evidence, right? Like I guess they can just argue, as they often do, or they might have some other supporting evidence, right? Case law, what have you. And, or they might bring up, previous trial testimony, whatever the case may be. So let's say that this happens, and let's say that the judge is like, yeah, actually, that makes sense. Man, I'm glad I gave you that chance. I'm glad I listened to you. Okay, Mr. Dennison, cool. I'm going to overrule the objection, the one she had previously sustained. Then that would be Mr. Dennison winning that sidebar. But what happens here, and again, this is voir dire, but what happens is she still sustains the objection, right? So in that case, right, then it would go against Johnny Depp's team's time, because they initiated this action here for further discussion, but the ruling that was in the favor of the opposite party, that ruling was upheld, right? So you have to remember it's like a two-party system, right? So you've got winners and losers when it comes to this type of stuff. That's my understanding anyway. So anywho, all right. I think we covered all that. Yes, we did. Doodly-doo. Do-do-do. Doodly-doo.
All right. At some point, you ran searches for
they're going to say Amber Turd.
Terms, hoax, fraud.
There we go.
I think you said fake.
You should talk about this a lot.
And then
this is bad.
You don't know
Amber
why
Heard.
those terms appeared, do you?
I'm not sure what you mean by that question.
He's doing the best he can.
Are you asking me?
You could not perform a scientific analysis of the reason why those terms appeared in the tweets you were looking at.
Right. I could only show mathematical correlation.
Right. You could show a correlation, but you don't have any idea why they're there.
This is Amber Heard, social media expert.
Right. And just because the tweet contains one of the terms does not mean the tweet was in some way
serve. You think it is, Amber?
Waldman, right?
Well, there are a few things I searched for. The ones you just mentioned, and then the Waldman and Waldman-Yon terms. So
no,
it's not
Michelle
that big a stretch to say
expert,
that it's related to Mr. Waldman if it's his name and Waldman-Yon or Minion.
Wait a minute, is the new standard? It's not that big a stretch.
No, I'm trying to speak. I'm trying to
certainty, right?
Yes.
Trying to speak in lay terms.
So you're not suggesting
they're not going to show she was beaten up though.
Why
with
Mr.
this.
Waldman's name appear in any of these tweets?
Well, if you look at the tweets that have Waldman-Yon, and I looked at a large sample of them.
Wait, just a large sample was
what?
2,000 out of 1,000,002.
No, I looked at more than that of these. But that's another thing that I wouldn't expect to be in controversy.
Amy,
when people are saying that they're part of the Wald minions or things like that,
it could be.
I would expect everybody to agree without arguing that it has to do with Mr. Waldman.
Nobody asked whether it has to do with Mr. Waldman. I'm wondering.
That's not how trial works, man.
Anything to do with Mr. Waldman's statements.
But I was under the impression, I was informed that nobody really knew who Mr. Waldman was before all of this. So I wouldn't expect it to be anything else. I didn't think it was in controversy.
Everything's in controversy. It's a trial.
Everyone knew who Mr. Waldman was. Is that your testimony?
No, I'm saying it wasn't in controversy that that if somebody was suddenly talking about him, that it had to do with this case.
All right, but again, it's not, did it have to do with this case? It's, did it have to do with the allegedly defamatory statements? You have no idea, do you, sir?
He got asked.
I can't get into anyone's mind. I can only talk about the science of it.
Look,
Right.
you put shit in, you're going to get shit
so
out.
you
That's not his
identified
fault.
all of
They
these,
gave him bad info.
Hashtags as
They gave him bad info.
as-
He's like, I understood
negative
this.
towards Miss Heard.
That's Heard's team's
Right.
fault.
Right.
They gave him.
Justice for Johnny Depp is not negative towards Miss Heard, is it?
No, but the tweets that use that hashtag are.
No, but the hashtag itself, the hashtag that predominates through your analysis,
who could have
is
seen this
not,
coming?
in fact, negative towards Miss Heard.
Agreed.
I'm not opining on the hashtag itself. I'm talking about the tweets.
You said they
that
were
contain
negative.
that.
No, you said that the hashtags were negative. No.
But the hashtag itself
That's
is
not what you
negative.
said.
That's not part of my opinion, one way or the other.
You said they were negative
Do you
hashtags.
have an opinion as to whether justice for Johnny Depp is a good thing?
Yes,
It's not part of my assignment.
we do.
But you'll agree with me, justice in general is a good thing?
Big fan of justice.
Yeah, me too.
Big fan of justice.
All right, redirect.
Wait, did he say he was
Okay,
done?
yes, sir.
Fucking hell. Big fan of justice. Me too.
Mr. Schnell, you reviewed
Good luck, man. Don't ask about your
large sample of
cat.
tweets of Justice for Johnny
Godspeed.
Depp, correct?
I did.
What percentage of the tweets with negative hashtags between April 2020 and January 31st, 2021 contain the terms Waldman or Waldman-Yon?
Overruled.
No, it's
over 25%.
Dennison, you made your
1 out of
points.
4.
Just sit down and be quiet.
And in your analysis,
Be quiet
how
now.
far in time did the tweets
You did your
containing
work.
the terms Waldman or Waldman-Yon go?
Is that Mountain
Like, how far
Dew?
to now?
Well,
Beyond the scope of cross.
He was asking about.
Well, that's fair.
Um,
Sit down, Dennison. You.
so I
you've
think I
won this
disclosed at
round.
my deposition that I looked further into 2022 and found that it continued to go on. I didn't see any end to it at all.
And based on your analysis, again, what period of time had more negative tweets against Ms. Heard before or after April 2020?
It was clearly double as many from April to 2021.
And that's even including the February 2020 spike, correct?
That's right. So and that happened before April, obviously. So even if you put that in there, it's still a lot more after April of 2020. And there are fewer months in that time period. I think there are 20
Is
or
this fixing it?
15 months in that
I
time
can't
period
tell.
and 27 months in the first part.
I don't think it's
And
fixing
based
it.
on your analysis, what, if any, end do you see to the negative tweets toward Ms. Heard?
Objection, no foundation.
Big fan of
based on his
justice.
analysis
Is he also
up
a
until
big
the
fan
time.
of Captain Jack
I'll
Sparrow?
sustain the objection.
Okay. Did you see any, based on your analysis, at the end of the time of your analysis, what was happening with the negative tweets toward Ms. Heard?
To continue to go on.
Mr. Schnell, after your cross-examination, have any of your opinions in this matter changed?
No, they've not.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So you can have a
Just be
seat in the
done.
courtroom, or you're free to go. Okay, sir.
It's like, fuck,
Thank
we're
you.
done. We're done. We're
Your
done.
next witness. Okay, sure.
Ms. Bredhoff, Your Honor, may we approach? For a sidebar. Okay, the court, sure. Let's get everybody here. It's been a party today. Like, you know what's so funny? I said that earlier. I said it was a party, didn't I, Judge A? That's so funny. All right, Ms. Bredhoff, I was trying to catch up because here the other day she was, I'm slow, Your Honor. Now she's trying to catch up. It's always something. I was trying to catch up. But because of Your Honor's ruling, there we go, blame Judge A. Because of Your Honor's ruling on Berkovici that changed things considerably, scrambled part of it on what we're putting, what the hell? Scrambled part of it on what we're putting on of him. You know, here's the thing. There's been plenty of typos, as I've pointed out. When I'm reading, I always point that out. However, if in fact every, you know, nonsensical sentence or incomplete sentence or whatever of Elaine's was not an error on her part, but instead a typo, the statistics would be very sketchy in that case, because it would be like 80% of the typos of the whole trial, like, would be when she's talking. So, take from that what you will. All right, let's try this again, just in case it'll make more sense, though it's doubtful. I was trying to catch up, but because of Your Honor's ruling on Bergovici, that changed things considerably. Scrambled part of it on what we're putting on of him. All right, that's what we have. The court, okay? I mean, briefly, it's so nonsensical, I can't figure out if there was a word added or a word missing. I just don't even know. You guys are welcome to try. The court, okay? Ms. Bredhoft. And then, so we're going to do just putting on deposition designations. The court, okay? Ms. Bredhoft. Some of those we didn't say we were putting on today because we didn't. The court, I don't think we'll have time. Ms. Bredhoff, well, we do have the times. I don't... See, is that just a misunderstanding? She's saying, I don't think we'll have time. And Elaine's like, we have the times. Like, that to me sounds like, the times, like, which parts they're going to play of a deposition. So two completely different things. Ms. Bredhoff, well, we do have the times. The next one that we want to call... Yeah, she's talking about, like, the length of the videos. The next one we want to call is Blaustein. We sent that to Planet Depots on the 11th of May. They sent it back on the 13th of May. I don't think there should be any prejudice. Yeah, so there's a word missing. But see, when that happens, it's obvious, right? It doesn't ever confuse me. I'm just like, oh, there's a word missing. I don't think there should be, clearly, right, any prejudice in putting that on. It's 32 minutes. Ms. Vasquez, we have an objection, Your Honor. The court, what's the objection? Ms. Vasquez, the objection is that Your Honor's rulings aren't reflected, and we have been notified during the lunch break that they have intended to call Dr. Blaustein by video. We have been reviewing that deposition. In light of their designations, here we go with this again. These videos have been respliced, and there are objections that were sustained by Your Honor that are still in the video. So we have a severe objection to this. Very prejudiced. Ms. Bredhoff, this was back on May 11th, Your Honor. They didn't ever tell us. The court, well, objections are still in there. If there's testimony in there that I sustained objection to, I can't have it at trial. I mean, you guys can't see me. I'm just shaking my head. Sometimes it's all you can do when you look at this stuff. Ms. Bredhoft, I would agree, Your Honor, and we just aren't aware of them. We weren't made aware of them. Ms. Vasquez, we informed you. We have sent 3 emails, as we have 2 associates to desperately look through it. There are problems with the video. They can't play the video. They have objections. Your Honor, sustained. Ms. Bredhoft, okay, what can you do? The court, do you have a different one? Ms. Bredhoft, yeah. The court, maybe that could be resolved by the end of the day. Wow, totally took a brilliant mind to come up with that, didn't it? Because Elaine surely couldn't have. Ms. Bredhoff, all right. She's like, whatever shall we do? Play something else until you fix it. Jesus. We do have Jessica. I don't know how to say that. We do have Jessica Kovacevic, Your Honor. We actually may have some issues, Your Honor, on being able to get enough in for the whole day. We've probably got the court. Closing arguments are next Friday. It's going to count towards your time. Ms. Bredhoff, well, might be even sooner. Closing arguments might be sooner, Your Honor, is what I'm saying. What? Or is she complaining about the time? The court, okay, well, I'm saying if we don't go to the end of the day, I'm still going to count to the end of the day to your side. Oh, wow. Ms. Bredhoff, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Vasquez, I need to confirm whether this one has been reviewed. The court, okay. Ms. Vasquez, to the point of the rule, Your Honor, if I understood it, was to notify, and yes, and we talked about this. If I understood it, was to notify us 48 hours in advance as to the deposition she's playing. The court, I understand, and I make rulings. I understand that changes the flow of the trial. That's not going to be a concern for me, Ms. Vasquez. But the problem with us is we're trying to play catch-up and review depositions in light of their designation. Yep. De-designation. That business again. You know, so I saw this. I saw this in my life. So this was from day 18. This is from day 18. And this is when I gave a little bit of like a background on the whole deal with what the designations are and why it matters and why I really can't, I didn't say this at the time, but I thought this at the time. I was surprised that Judge A sided with Elaine. Well, not sided with her, but in other words, she overruled whatever their Johnny Depp's team, you know, they had made a objection, and they had voiced their concerns about Elaine and them, you know, de-designating like last minute, right? Essentially fucking with the deposition videos, and then they don't even have a chance to review it. And not only that, but it changes things for them, but they can't respond to it the way they could with a live witness, right? And Elaine's argument was like, it's the same as a live witness. And I was like, no, that's bullshit. And I was really surprised that Judge A ruled with her. And I didn't know this until now, but I felt a sense of, uh-oh. And here we go. Because you know what happens is now Elaine thinks they can just do that again. That's what's happening here. That is literally what is happening here. I can't even believe this. Like, it's like a 2-year-old, right? It's like if you let them, you know, I don't know, raid the cookie jar. A 2-year-old can't do that. You know, anyway, y'all know what I mean. It's like a 2-year-old. You can't let them, you know, give them an inch, she'll take a mile, that type of thing. Here we go. So the problem with us is we're trying to play catch up and review depositions in light of their D designation. So again, the D designation is if you've already designated, which means you've already said, I'm claiming this portion, let's say X, Y, and Z. I want this played from this deposition. You've designated it as in you've agreed to say, yep, I want this played and this can go against our time. The video is spliced with both sides with their designations, right? And it's compiled together. Bloop. And then de-designating is undoing it. It's like takes these backsies, right? It's like, nope, I don't want that anymore. So now the other side, in this case is Johnny Depp's side, has already made their decisions for their designations based on what the other side had designated. So when they de-designate, it changes that. And a lot of times it's information that they're relying upon coming in. So this is a real problem. And I was just, like I said, I was really surprised. Well, I'm saying it now. I didn't say it then. I thought it then. I was really surprised that Judge A didn't correct that and just let them kind of go with it. And Elaine was blaming it on the whole thing on it's because of the time, right? God, that sidebar really pissed me off, to be honest with you. Because Elaine was just in my opinion, she was kind of trying to like trick Judge A, but the argument wasn't even a good one. And then it's like she kept blaming Judge A that entire time as well because of your honors ruling on the time. I'm just going to keep going if I don't keep reading. So I'm going to keep reading. You guys were there, and if you weren't there, you can go back and watch it if you're interested. Okay. Here we go. All right, keep going. The court. I understand trial is fluid, and that's what she said last time. She said trial is fluid. Exactly. She said that. Yep. And the other thing she said was it was a strange situation because of the number of depositions. And I think she said that earlier up here, and I thought to myself, that's interesting. She said that before. Anyway, all right, keep going. Trial is fluid. I get that. So these are the only two that you've prepared to go forward on today, Ms. Bredoff. No. We have, after Kovacevic, I don't know how to pronounce that. Your Honor, we have Michelle Mulrooney. We have the Disney corporate representative, and we have Eric George, the court. Okay, Ms. Bredoff. So, and then we have Ellen Barkin. So those we can. And then what we'll probably do is I'm going to try to get an attorney to look at Blaustein and see the court. So I know that Disney one was for today. So was Eric George and Ellen Barkin. So you can do those first. Are you going to have any others? Ms. Vasquez, correct. Who the fuck is Mr. Crawford? We got a new character here. Mr. Crawford. Yeah, we have the order. We have the order Elaine offered up to know. And we already provided her Ms. Bredoff. Blaustein, the court. Will that work? Ms. Bredoff. Well, we'll see if we can get that being shifted during... Wait, hold on. The court. Will that work? Ms. Bredoff. Well, we'll see if we can get that being shifted during the court. If we can do the ones that we agree upon now, then we'll do our break, and then you can have some time. And we should be able to fill up the time, right? So you're just going to have depositions now for the rest of the day. Ms. Bredoff. Yes, Your Honor, that's all we have. And in fairness to them, I don't think we can call a witness. We could call a witness... And in fairness to them, I don't think we can call a witness. We could call a witness, but we wouldn't have given them enough warning. Again, I'm shaking my head. The court, I assume you'd rather do the depositions than live witnesses. Ms. Vasquez, yeah, for the ones that are notified for today. Mr. Rottenborn, Your Honor, if I may just address Mr. Moniz. Are you done with the... So they're good. That's so funny. They're like, are they continuing their little spat from earlier? Are you done with the comments on Blaustein, Mr. Moniz? Yeah. Mr. Rottenborn, because that one we could just kind of play and just stop and fast forward. The court, I'd rather not do that. Yeah, that sounds sloppy. Court, I'd rather not do that. You guys are doing great in depositions. We're moving really well now, so I don't want to go back to that first day we did depositions. Ms. Bredoff. All right, so we're going to start with Michelle Mulrooney, and then we'll do Disney corporate, the court, and then Ellen Barkin, Ms. Bredoff, and then Ellen Barkin, and then the court, and then we'll see. We should have everything after that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Back to open court.
What the fuck? You guys, that was so bad. That was so bad for Team Heard. I am stunned at how bad that was. That was so brutal for Amber Heard. Why did they think that that was a good idea? They brought in an expert to try to show reputational damage, but they didn't ask about that because they can't, to try to show a spike in negative social media. Amber Heard said that there was an orchestrated PR smear campaign against her. I almost said schmear because hungry. Smear campaign against her. And that didn't show an orchestrated smear campaign. That showed that after the audio that the jury has now heard, hashtag justice for Johnny Depp was overwhelming on social media, followed up by Amber Heard is an abuser, Amber Turd, and the words hoax, fake, and fraud. Amber Heard's own team has now entered into evidence in front of the jury that social media opinion is not only for justice for Johnny Depp, but calling Amber Heard an abuser, a hoaxer, a fake, and a fraud. I don't know how they're going to try to argue that, or if they are going to drop it and walk the fuck away, but I don't know how that was helpful. So the court of public opinion has now entered the chat. Holy shit. That seemed like an error. An unforced error, as so many of these errors have been with regard to Amber's team. I'm seeing on trending right now. Let's see what's trending on Twitter. Oh, I'm so shocked. Hashtag Amber Heard, hashtag Elaine Bredehoft is trending on Twitter. I'm shocked. That was dumb. That was dumb. That was dumb. You've now brought the court of public opinion into the court of law. I'm a big fan of justice, he said.
Here we go. Another little recess. What's that? 43, 16 minutes. Jeez. I tell you what, that's wild, right? Did I do the math right? Yeah. 16 minutes. So the jury, perhaps had 30 seconds to get in and 30 seconds to get out of that courtroom for them to keep that. All right. The court, okay, do you want to approach with the exhibits? Mr. Nadelhoff, yeah. The court, okay. They're going to approach for a sidebar. Sidebar, yeah. Sidebar, yeah. Okay. Mr. Nadelhoff, so I believe we're in agreement that 1049 is admitted. The court, okay. Mr. Crawford, new character. No objection. Mr. Nadelhoff, and then 1050 is his notes that the doctor, Dr. Blaustein, is Mr. Depp's psychiatrist. The court, okay. Mr. Nadelhoff, and these are his notes, which he testifies, these are all Depp's statements. Mr. Crawford. Dr. Blaustein's interpretation of Depp's statements, and there are notes, which Dr. Blaustein has notes to himself, Mr. Nadelhoff, which he testifies about. The court, are you able to read these? Mr. Crawford, he could not, unfortunately. I'm guessing that means couldn't make out the handwriting. Mr. Nadelhoff, so I know what we did with, Your Honor, what we did with Aaron Filati's notes, if I recall, was that we played them. Remember, that was an issue about what was redacted and what wasn't. The court, right, Mr. Nadelhoff. And we played it. We're comfortable playing these without showing them. The court, all right. Mr. Nadelhoff, maybe you can. The court, I can try to review this. Mr. Nadelhoff, no. As he's testifying to it, we're going to be seeing the portions of it, and I guess maybe afterwards we can. The court, can we have a discussion about it? Or sorry, we can have a discussion about it? Mr. Nadelhoff, yeah. The court, okay. Mr. Nadelhoff, that's my suggestion. Mr. Crawford, some of the portions that get read in would come in, but everything else is redacted. The court, redacted out. Mr. Nadelhoff, sure, we can do it that way. The court, we can look at that. Does anybody have a problem with that? Ms. Vasquez, no. The court, so there was an agreement that if it was read in during the deposition, that can come in. Ms. Vasquez, that's fine. Mr. Nadelhoff, we're all on the same page. We won't show it. As they would say in Murdoch land, they're singing from the same sheet of music. Court, okay, that's fine. We won't show it. Mr. Nadelhoff, we won't show it, so that way there's no question about what's redacted and what's not. Brilliant. Court, okay, so I'll admit as redacted, the only thing that's going to be admitted in evidence are these statements that will be read on in the the only thing that's going to be admitted in evidence are these statements that will be read on in the deposition. I don't know, it's a kind of a weird sentence, but all right, Mr. Nadelhoff, sure. The court, everybody agree with that? No objection to 1049, right? 1049 is in evidence. Ms. Vasquez, thank you, Your Honor. The court, all right, thank you. The court, all right, thank you. Who knows?
Oh, did you see Judge A's face? What are they showing the judge? What are they showing the judge? She was like, somebody needs to clip that. What is the timestamp? 2:03. I'm going to make a note. I want to go back and look at that. I want to see if I can figure out what that was for. She was like, did you all see that? This is why I love keeping our eye on the court.
When you say the most successful film ever, you're referring to Aquaman 1, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are comparable actors' salaries used in your mind to ascertain the asking price
The
for an
most
actor in a
successful
similar
movie ever. I
film?
just
Are
can't.
comparable actors' salaries used in your mind to ascertain the asking price for an actor in a similar film?
Yes.
Would you consider Ana de Armas' career to be comparable to Amber's in
Who?
measuring where Amber would have been after Aquaman 1?
Wait, who?
Ana de Armas, yes. I would say that would be a comparable, that would be a good comp.
Wait, who's Ana de Armas? What was she in? Help me.
Is that what you have for today?
That's it.
Thank God.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come
I
to the
almost
end
choked.
of our day and the end of our week.
End of the week.
I want to make sure you have a good 3 days and come back for our last week of testimony and enjoy your weekend. And also, in this matter, Ms. Hurd and Mr. Depp, please do not do any posts on social media over the weekend and no public statements, please. All right. And we will see you on Monday morning. As for the attorneys, 8 a.m. tomorrow. I thank you for all the jury instructions, objections. We're going through those now. I appreciate that.
Time.
I am missing some exhibits from depositions that we need to get. So if you get with Jamie so we can get those and get them all taken care of for the week. As far as times go, I'll give you your updated times as of this minute.
Yes.
For plaintiff has used 42 hours and 45 minutes. Defendant has used 53 hours and 1 minute. So the time remaining for the plaintiffs is 18 hours and 30 minutes. And the time for the defendants is 8 hours and 14 minutes. Okay?
Wow. That's why they cut all that fucking cross.
Before we're done for tonight?
No.
Boom.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Yes?
Thank you.
8 a.m. So what they're meeting about tomorrow is evidentiary issues, the jury instructions, the verdict forms. There is a ton of legal that happens outside the presence of the jury. The lawyers have exceedingly long days when they are in court, and there is a lot that happens outside the presence of the jury.
So you know what's interesting is here we have Elaine Charlson, Bredehoff, Esquire, and the law firm that she perhaps is a partner of, Charlson, Bredehoff, Cohen, Brown, and Bedelhoff, aka, what was it, Baby Rottenborn, or Rottenborn Jr., something like that. I think it was Baby Rottenborn. So anyway, it's interesting because if these are the partners, right? So assuming Charlson is her maiden name and Bredehoff is her married name, there's a couple different possibilities here with this law firm. So let's say maybe Charlson is her dad, and let's say that Bredehoff is her husband. Then maybe she met her husband because he worked with her dad, or maybe this is her. Maybe she became a partner after she got married. I suppose that's possible. Maybe her husband, maybe Mr. Bredehoff doesn't have anything to do with the law. Maybe he does something else. Or maybe Charlson, maybe this is her brother, Mr. Charlson, Lane's brother. And maybe her brother was friends with Mr. Bredehoff, and then that's how they met. So basically, long story short, this is going to require some digging. So note to self, make sure to hire Squirrel Investigations LLC for further inquiry on this very important matter. Okay. Moving on. Proceedings. Oh, sorry. Let me go ahead and introduce the day. Today is day 21st of the trial, May 23rd. And here we go. Proceedings. The bailiff, all rise. Please be seated and come to order. The court, good morning. Do we have any preliminary matters? Mr. Rottenborn, we have some exhibits to hand out. The court, that would be fantastic. That will make Jamie's day. I feel like we don't hear as much about Jamie. All right, anything else, Mr. Rottenborn? Thank you, Your Honor. The court, all right. Are we ready for the jury then? Mr. Chu, yes, Your Honor. The court, okay. And then here we go.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Your Honor, Amber calls Dr. Richard Moore. Good morning, Dr. Moore.
Good morning.
Can you please tell the jury your full name?
Richard Salter Moore, Jr.
Where do you work?
Emerge Ortho in Wilmington, North Carolina.
And what is the basis for that opinion?
Well, the medical data is inconclusive.
It's
not consistent with what we see in the described injury pattern or in the clinical photographs.
Is it inconclusive?
And there are several elements. There's the description was of the hand being flat on a bar and the bottle crushing the finger from the top. But looking at the images, there's really no significant injury to the dorsum of the finger, and to create the type of injury with that type of a crush injury, we would anticipate both injury to the fingernail and other parts of the finger.
We would anticipate.
Can I stop you there and just break down a few things? You said the hand resting flat on the bar. Can you show the jury what direction the hand was resting based on the documents you've reviewed?
Why?
The demonstration was with the hand flat like this.
And that's not what Depp did in court.
Across and maybe even curled over the edge of the bar like this.
Which side was facing upward? Which side of the hand?
The back of the hand, or we call it the dorsal surface of the hand, was up.
Doctor, if you could get closer to the microphone.
Oh,
It is too early if you think he's an orthodontist. That's for sure.
You referred to the back of the hand as the dorsal side of the hand. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Sort of like the dorsal fin on a shark.
Dolphin. Go with a dolphin. Rotten porn.
What is the other side of the hand called?
The palmar surface.
Palmar. Okay. So what direction was Mr. Depp's hand resting on the bar?
So the dorsal side was up, which with the descripted mechanism of injury or the injury, the bottle would have struck the top of the finger.
Way too much time asking about that. They could have stipulated to him being
you
an
also
expert
mentioned a term
to save
that
time.
I'd like
They
you
didn't
to
want
explain to the jury: crush injury.
They want the jury to hear about his expert.
So with review of the images and the X-rays, I mean, this was a crush injury. That would generate the findings clinically on X-ray that we saw.
It does.
The fracture
how the finger happened is part of it.
We call it comminuted, and the tip of the finger is in multiple splinters. So there are multiple fragments, and typically you see that with a crush type injury.
So a comminuted fracture is one where there's multiple fragments of bone.
That's correct.
And what was the basis, other than what you've read and heard, but from the pictures, what was the basis of your opinion that the hand was resting palmar side down?
Well, that was the way the injury was described and demonstrated in the videos. And so in that position, were the bottle to strike the finger the way it was described, it would have struck on the nail. And
it would have struck on the nail?
And the nail was really not injured. And so that's not consistent with that pattern of injury.
And Dr. Moore, in your decades of practice, have you ever seen an injury associated with a glass explosion that was focused on the end of a single finger in the way Mr. Depp describes?
Thank you.
Well,
we're not
consistent with the clinical images and the findings in this case. No.
People. I don't think that's our chat doing that. I think that's others amongst the
Have
internet.
you ever seen an injury associated with an alleged glass explosion where no other glass was found on any part of the patient's body or clothing or anything?
No.
Again,
in your
couldn't the bottle
decades
have
of
crushed
practice,
the finger?
Dr. Moore, have you ever seen an avulsion injury with a partial amputation that results from an object thrown from the top of the finger?
It wasn't
in the way that
from
Mr.
the
Depp
top of the
describes.
finger. He didn't throw it.
No. Again, I think that the description differs from the clinical appearance on the images.
Dr. Moore, you said you've treated thousands of hand injuries over the course of your career, correct?
Correct.
What is that on Mr. Depp's hand?
So we describe that as a
objection. Calls for speculation.
The picture just changed.
The picture did just
Page
change.
12, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. What is that on Mr. Depp's hand?
Oh, is it a
So
hard
that's
cast or not?
that's a plaster splint.
Overruled the objection.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Y'all get it
I'm
together.
sorry. Please tell the jury what that is on Mr. Depp's hand.
So that's a plaster splint. A half a cast is how I sometimes describe it to patients, and it provides stability for comfort and to protect fractures in the course of treatment.
Is that plaster splint hard or soft?
What's plaster Paris? It hardens like a cast does.
Dr. Moore,
When
does
was this
Mr.
photo
Depp's description
from?
of how his finger became injured line up with the facts that you've seen?
No.
I have no further questions.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Cross-examination.
Good morning, Dr. Moore.
Good morning.
I'm glad it's Camille.
You said you reviewed Mr. Depp's video deposition. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you said you reviewed Mr. Depp's testimony at this trial, correct?
That's correct.
And was that also a video of his testimony?
Yes.
And you testified that Mr. Depp demonstrated that his hand was flat on a surface. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's not what he demonstrated.
That's not entirely accurate, is it, though?
Fair.
No, his description was relatively consistent in both, including turning and resting the hand on the edge.
He had it over the edge, though.
Isn't it true, Dr. Moore, that when Mr. Depp did the demonstration in his deposition, he showed that his fingers were hanging over the bar?
And they can take all the time they want because they have a 10-hour
Even hanging
advantage.
over the bar, it still leaves the dorsum of the hand or the nail vulnerable.
That's not my question, Dr. Moore. My question is, isn't it true that Mr. Depp said his fingers were not laying flat on a table, they were hanging over the bar?
That's what he said,
Yes.
said and showed.
And in fact, you knew that when you made that opinion. Isn't that correct?
Well, I believe that as I demonstrated sitting here, that I said that he had said they were slightly curled over. I think
he had them.
Was the description that I gave.
Your description in this courtroom was that it was laying flat, and I think you've done that now twice. But in your deposition, you testified that his fingers were actually hanging over the bar. Isn't that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Misstates the witness's testimony. He clearly indicated they were curled.
No, he didn't.
Overruled.
He said slightly
So that's
curled.
so that's a distinction that perhaps I misstated in one of the two descriptions. However, that does not substantially change my opinion of the impact it would have on the mechanism.
Perhaps you misstated. Did you listen
Now,
to the
you
audio?
testified that you identified Mr. Depp's finger injury as a crush injury, correct?
Correct.
And a crush injury is when a body part is
Get it,
crushed
Camille.
or trapped between two opposing firm surfaces. Yes?
Yes.
Wouldn't a
And a
giant
crush
vodka
injury
bottle
to
be
a finger
firm?
can occur when a foreign object hits the finger, right?
Foreign
Yes.
object.
And based on the
Sorry.
pictures that you reviewed of Mr. Depp's finger injury, you cannot determine what particular object caused the injury to his finger. Yes?
Well, I can't determine
Yes or no,
exactly
sir?
what object did it. I think that I can say with
DUI
confidence
guy's there.
that the
from
described
court is
mechanism
there.
of the bottle
We'll know
hitting,
what the jury
shattering the
thinks.
finger was not consistent with the appearance
I
of the
understand
injury.
that.
And
My
I think
question is just very specific.
My question's
You
a bit
can't
more
determine
specific, sir.
the object that caused the injury to Mr. Depp's finger.
it's a little bit more of a,
No.
of a non-specific answer. I mean,
Yeah, that's a
again, I can't determine the exact object, but I can determine that it's unlikely that it was sustained in the manner described.
I can't determine the exact
A
object, but
bottle
I
is a
can
foreign
rule
object,
out
isn't it?
that it was a bottle.
Yes.
So you can't rule out that the injury to Mr. Depp's finger was caused by a vodka bottle, correct?
Well, based on the injury pattern, I can say that the described mechanism of injury is inconsistent with medical findings.
Right. But because a vodka bottle is a foreign object, you can't rule out that a vodka bottle is what caused
I love
Mr.
the
Depp's
admiration
injury.
from her team.
Well, I can't rule out that a vodka
Their team's
bottle
awesome.
caused the injury, but I can rule out that it was caused in the manner described in his testimony.
You can't rule out that the injury was caused by a knife, right?
I think it's unlikely that the injury was caused by a knife.
But you can't rule it out.
Well, a simple knife laceration wouldn't impart the injury to the distal phalanx to result in the comedy fracture.
To the
now a chopping type
to the crushed
again,
bone.
that would likely come from a direction that would that created dorsal injury to create the fracture that was developed. I mean, I think that
but I can't say.
Quite likely that the initial mechanism described at the time of presentation of the accordion doors would classically create this injury pattern. You know, the hand up in front. If you picture accordion doors as the edge is closed, if the hand's up, the palm is exposed. If the door's pushed,
Dr. Moore,
closes about the fingers.
I understand that. But my question is,
I think it's important that they understand.
Well, that's what redirect's for.
This is the time for me to ask you questions. Your counsel will have the ability to rehabilitate you and ask you questions on redirect. Right now, let's try my question.
Okay.
You can't definitively say what caused the injury to Mr. Depp's fingers. Yes or no?
No.
Okay. In conducting your analysis of Mr. Depp's finger injury, you did not attempt to reconstruct the incident. Is that right?
Well, I think the incident was reconstructed. You mean did I throw a vodka bottle at something?
No, no, Dr. Moore. I mean, you didn't do any type of accident reconstruction, either computerized or you didn't conduct any type of accident reconstruction of the alleged.
No, that's correct. My opinion is based on the medical records and the clinical images and Mr. Depp's description.
And your analysis is based on an understanding of how Mr. Depp described the exact position of his finger at the time of the injury. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And your analysis is also based on the assumption that Mr. Depp's hand remained completely still in the instance that a vodka bottle was hurled at him. Yes?
No, my assessment is on his description of the vodka bottle striking the top of his finger.
Oh, that's even more specific.
But his hand stayed still, according to your analysis.
There we go, y'all. He didn't rip his hand away.
I guess it was still long enough for the bottle to hit it, but natural reaction would be to try to pull away.
You reviewed Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony informing your opinion about Mr. Depp's finger injury, correct?
Correct.
Informing your opinion, did you consider Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that while Dr. Kipper was providing emergency treatment
Objection,
for
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Depp?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Bro, no.
Sidebar, Mr. Rottenborn. Your Honor, you've already excluded this testimony as hearsay. It was in the deposition designations when Dr. Kipper claimed that Mr. Depp told him, sounds like hearsay, that this had happened with the vodka bottle as he was picking him up in Australia. Your Honor concluded that testimony from Dr. Kipper's deposition as hearsay. The court, well, when Dr. Kipper was testifying, oh yeah, okay, Ms. Vasquez, correct. Mr. Rottenborn, yeah, I understand, Ms. Vasquez. He can testify as to the court because he reviewed, Ms. Vasquez, he reviewed the deposition. Mr. Rottenborn, he can testify as to what he reviewed, but it's being offered by Ms. Vasquez. It's not being offered by us. The court overruled. I love the one-word answer here. Mr. Rottenborn, okay, Ms. Vasquez, thank you, Your Honor. Back to open court we go.
Here's the thing with the expert, if you reviewed it, you get to be questioned about it. So whatever you reviewed, you get to be asked about. It's why they're not going to need their own expert on this. They get to ask. You reviewed Dr. Kipper. Dr. Kipper said this. That didn't change your opinion. You were told this. That didn't change your opinion. They get to ask absolutely all of it. And that is the point. DUI guys in the gallery, perfect. I know that I saw him earlier, and I know that we have Joe Neerman in the gallery today too. So there we go. Not at all how Depp demonstrated how his hand was resting on the bar. And the jury might remember that. So again, this, it's all fair game once you bring in the expert.
Let's start over.
Let's
it's
try
important the jury hears this.
Her
So
question.
informing your opinion, did you consider Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that while Dr. Kipper was providing emergency treatment for Mr. Depp's finger injury in Australia in the driveway of the house, Mr. Depp told him that his finger was injured when Miss Heard threw a vodka bottle at him?
I don't recall that from the deposition. I'd be happy to review it if you have the deposition.
Sure.
Available.
Did you consider Dr. Kipper's testimony that he recalled that Mr. Depp's finger was found in the kitchen?
I do recall that.
So you must have also seen Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that he wasn't the one who actually found the finger, correct?
That's correct.
Dr. Kipper testified that someone he thought was the chef told him he found the finger in the kitchen area, correct?
I'm going to assume so without reading the deposition now.
Did you review any testimony from Ben King in rendering your opinions today?
There it is.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Did you see any of Mr. King's testimony at this trial?
I did not.
So you're not aware that Mr. King testified that he is the one who found Mr. Depp's finger, are you?
No.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified that he found Mr. Depp's finger in the bar area, right?
Correct.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger in a piece of tissue in the bar area, either?
No.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified that multiple broken liquor bottles were also found in the bar area, right?
Correct.
She seems very comfortable.
Have you ever seen this picture
today,
before, Dr.
which is
Moore?
nice to see.
No.
So you're not aware that this is the bar area where Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger?
No.
Do you see that broken vodka bottle in the back corner near the bottom of the bar?
Yes.
But you said there was no broken glass, sir.
Do you see the blood drops on the floor?
Yes.
Do you see the bloody tissue on the ground at the bottom of the bar?
Yes.
Do you see the blood drops around that tissue?
Yes.
So you didn't consider any of this evidence in rendering your opinion about how Mr. Depp injured his finger in Australia, did you?
I did not.
We pin the current
Nothing
testimony
further,
in the
Your Honor.
pinned
Thank you.
comment.
Redirect.
Has
Sit down now.
anything that's been
Nope, sit
presented
down
to you
now.
on cross-examination changed any of the opinions that you hold in this case?
Sit down now.
I have nothing further.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
I think
Thank
that
you.
is
All right, Dr.
Whitney.
Moore, you're free to go, or you can stay in the courtroom. It's up to you.
Yep,
All right,
looks like
thank you.
Whitney, and looks
All right, your
like,
next
is
witness?
that,
Your Honor,
who
we'd
is that?
like to call Dr. David Spiegel.
Dr. Spiegel?
So I guess they haven't called him up yet. They might be going to sidebar. So I don't know what this doctor is coming up for, but we've got Ben Chu and Elaine up at the bench to have some conversation, and that's going to be interesting. Who is this? Is this Dennison? Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to point something out. I don't think I've pointed this out yet, but little interesting fun factoid. So here you can see they're going to call Dr. Spiegel, and you can see Mr. Dennison asks to approach, and they end up approaching the bench for quite a while at what is a lengthy sidebar. However, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, it was not entered into the transcript, the word sidebar. So there's no sidebar, so it doesn't come up in the search when you search for it. And what I was going to say is that this happens at least once, if not several times. I would say every single day of the trial that I've done so far has had this happen, where there's some sort of sidebar, at least one of them that per day, that hasn't been labeled a sidebar, so it doesn't come up when you search for sidebar. And what I was going to say is that it's something that, like, you wouldn't know this, unless you're like watching, like, unless you're lining it up with the trial footage, like, because there's, unless you just would happen to remember. But the reason I caught this is because I was working on the video and I saw them having a sidebar as he's standing there waiting awkwardly, and it's really super awkward. He's standing there and it's like, what's going on? And they're up at the bench. And then I was like, oh, hold on. I pulled it back up and I went and looked for it, and here it is. So what, I mean, I don't know why they don't label it sidebar, but if that's the case, if it's, with these transcripts, not that there's any other transcripts available that I know of with sidebars, but anyway, my point is that, it'd be really easy to miss them if you're covering them, if you didn't actually either just scroll through every page and look for it visually yourself, or if you use the trial footage, because again, like, if you're the obvious thing to do is to use the word finder, right? But it doesn't help here. So anyway, okay. So we don't want to miss any of these, right? So we're doing every single one. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's see. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, may we approach before the witness is sworn? The court, that's fine. Yes, sir. Mr. Dennison, this witness in this deposition testified that he is going to opine to a degree of medical certainty that Mr. Depp, in fact, committed intimate partner violence. I think that's an ultimate issue, and also is not reflected in his disclosure. Beyond that, he indicates he's going to opine, at least in his deposition, as to the credibility of Ms. Heard, which I believe is an improper inquiry for an expert under the Virginia rules. The court, I think this was a motion to eliminate, Mrs. Burdoff. It was, Your Honor. You denied it. Your Honor denied the motion in limine intimate issue. The court. Oh, Ms. Burdoff, yeah. What he's going to testify to, Your Honor, is that Mr. Depp's conduct is consistent with the risk factors that are part of intimate partner violence. That's what he's going to say. The court. The risk factors? Ms. Burdoff, the risk factors. That it is consistent with, correct, that the evidence indicates that it's consistent with. The court. Let me see what motion eliminate it was, Mr. Dennison. The testimony, Ms. Burdoff, I don't. Mr. Dennison, that testimony is consistent with his disclosure. The court, as long as he stays with that, Mr. Dennison, right, but they cannot say, and I think you said improper for him to say, that it is, to say, is Mr. Depp committed? The court, well, he's not going to say risk factors, Ms. Burdoff. He's going to say that it's consistent, but we're going to go through all of the evidence of that. The court, correct, Ms. Burdoff. But even if he did, and he did say it at any time, oh boy, sneakadoodle Bredahoff here. But even if he did, and he did say it at any time in his deposition, I'm adding words, I'm trying to fix this because there's words missing, and he did incorporate and supplement all of our depositions of our experts, but what he's going to say is that it's consistent with it. But the rules would allow him to testify to an ultimate issue if the court, that's what we're making sure is that is not being testified. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. Ms. Burdoff. But I believe that he's going to testify that he has all the evidence of the risk factors and the risk factors consistent, and I here in brackets, with risk factors consistent. Mr. Dennison, I don't have a problem with that. I also do have a problem, however. He met with Ms. Heard over Zoom for 1 hour and has testified, at least in deposition, that he finds her the more credible witness. The court, he's not going to testify to credibility. Ms. Burdoff, that's not what he said in his deposition. He said based on Dr. Curry's testing, the issues that, in fact, one of the findings in there is that they're being truth. They're being truth in their responses. And he has been consistent on that. That's absolutely one of the things he said. The court, he can't testify to credibility. That's up to the jury to decide. Credibility. Ms. Burdoff, he's going to testify that that testing result reflected that she was giving truthful responses to Dr. Curry's test, which he can do. That's one of the factors. Mr. Dennison, again, not in the disclosure. Ms. Burdoff, actually it was. The court, I'm going to allow that testimony and you can cross-examine on that. Mr. Dennison, okay. The court, just on Dr. Curry's tests, though. Ms. Burdoff, correct. The court, not on credibility as a witness. Okay. Mr. Dennison, right. And remember, I don't have to tell you to remember. You remember. You know, he's talking to the judge there. He's saying, like, essentially, like, I'm talking to you, Elaine. Both Dr. Curry and Dr. Hughes talked about this in terms of professional opinions around evidence of feigning. This wasn't who's telling the truth, the court. Right. But it was just a factor in that particular test. Ms. Burdoff, a factor in that particular test. She's just like a parrot, just like repeating things here and there. It's great. The court, so that's fine. You can cross-examine on it. Okay, Mr. Dennison. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Burdoff, may I just tell the witness briefly? I just had like deja vu from that other one early in the trial where she's like, you have a lot of things you have to tell different people, Elaine. Anyway, okay, the court, to remind him, Ms. Burdoff, to remind him, the court, yeah, remind him before he's sworn in, that's perfect. So that's why he stands there awkwardly. All right, now it all makes sense. Ms. Burdoff, thank you, Your Honor. The court, yeah, thank you, Mr. Dennison, thank you. Everyone's thankful, happy. And here we go. It is time. It is time. Oh, you know what? That goes perfectly with what I said last time. It's the most wonderful time of the trial because we have Dr. Spiegel. Woohoo! All right. Wackadoodle Spiegel. Here we go.
They're asking the doctor something, so something is going on where they need to ask the doctor. I'm surprised they didn't just excuse the jury at this point and bring the doctor up and let the judge ask.
So, I can picture him, and it's just already really funny. As he even answers, like, this first question, his address, it's already funny. Okay, so, Dr. Spiegel, here we are, Spiegel time.
It looks like this doctor is coming up to be sworn in. Hello from Holland. What's the big deal about JD using an earpiece on set? It seems like a good idea.
Will you please tell the jury your full name and business address?
I think they're trying to say that
R. Spiegel. I'm a physician. I work at 825 Fairfax Avenue in Norfolk, Virginia.
I just hear.
As part of the Eastern Virginia Medical School.
Hello, Perry the platypus.
And what is
That's
your
all I hear
occupation?
right now.
I'm a physician psychiatrist.
Just funny thing here. He went to Duke University. That's in North Carolina, which is where I live. Duke University is in Raleigh, which is the capital of North Carolina, for those who are either from another country or from this country but aren't familiar with North Carolina. So Duke University is in Raleigh, the capital, and I live about 2 hours away from Raleigh. And I'm going to keep going before I start going off on a tangent about North Carolina stuff. So he's explaining how he does shit. He's like, yeah, I'm experty. I'm experty as fuck. I'm Dr. Spiegel. Okay.
Again, it's very unfortunate that probably 50% of my patients suffer from trauma. If I had to guess of those 50%,
I was going to say it's not trauma.
25% of my practice
Narrow
is
part of trauma.
people who have suffered intimate partner violence.
As the
And
trauma.
how consistent is that with the national average?
In America, unfortunately, it's about 20 to 25%, depending on the study of women have reported intimate partner violence.
What about men?
And how frequently have you treated patients who have perpetrated the intimate partner violence?
So again, in the outpatient setting, I don't see it quite as much, but in the inpatient setting, again, it's a really relative common phenomena that we'll see perpetrators of partner violence. And, they're patients who need treatment too.
And overall, how many patients have you treated who
Complained
have been
is fair
perpetrators of
because
intimate
in the
partner
medical
violence?
context, you would say complained of or reported.
Perpetrators?
Kind of
Probably
interchange
5 to
complained of
10%
or
the
reported.
patients I do is perpetrators.
And would you say tens of thousands over the 30 years?
Tens of thousands
Yes.
of perpetrators?
Leading.
Overall.
It's an expert.
As
Some
part
of
of
the
treating
leading is
patients
fine.
relating to intimate partner violence, do you regularly evaluate these patients?
Regularly?
Do I regularly value the patient?
Evaluate the patient.
Oh, yes.
Do I pronounce
Yes,
regularly
Get
wrong?
the same comprehensive evaluation that I described before.
Have I been pronouncing
Are
regularly
you
wrong my whole
licensed in
life?
Virginia?
Yes, I am.
And when did you first become licensed in Virginia?
1993.
They're showing the jury
Have you
that
been
these are
qualified
home.
by courts as an expert witness?
These are local experts.
Yes, I have.
I don't. Elaine looks pleased. Elaine's
Dr.
like,
Spiegel,
mhm.
at our request, what have you reviewed in
passenger
this
shaming.
case? And just go ahead and give me more.
So
chance
it's,
to give the jury more
it's a
general.
lengthy
Now he's going to
review,
just
but
yell at the
court
jury. He's got to
filings,
take a breath, bro. Take a breath.
Psychological testing that was done on Ms. Heard by both Dr. Hughes and Dr. Curry. Other physicians' medical records of physician note, Dr. Kipper. Counselors and therapists that both parties and psychiatrists that they went to. Text messages, depositions.
He was really annoyed that his expertise was being
snippets of,
questioned.
the UK trial.
And that's fair.
And I'm sure pictures of physical injuries. So I've seen a lot.
What, if anything, have you
Ooh,
seen
let's
in
talk
terms
about
of
pictures.
emails,
Ask him about
audios,
pictures.
videos? things
Yes. So I've seen videos of.
Yeah, I like
Mr.
Camille's
Depp.
expert
I think
cross
they
better
were
than
showing
Dennison.
Of Mr.
Much
Depp
better.
destroying, slamming cupboards and breaking glass.
Oh, we saw the cupboards video.
And yelling at Miss Heard while having a wine glass in his with wine in his hands. I've seen videos of destruction of property in the
We're at
house.
469. Let's see the difference between 60 and 80.
And what,
up on
if
this
any,
channel.
review have you conducted of the deposition and testimony of Mr. Depp's hired witness, Dr. Curry?
Oh.
Objection.
Sure.
Oh, well, this is interesting.
Then there shall be a sidebar coming up here soon. They're going to have themselves a merry little sidebar. The court, all right, Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, when we were up here last time, Ms. Bredehoff represented to you that there's reference in this disclosure or in the rebuttal to disclosure to Dr. Curry. Her name does not appear. There's no reference at all to any evaluation of Amber Heard. The court, is there, I'm sure that's supposed to say Anne, is there an opinion about the credibility, Ms. Bredehoff? He testified in his deposition, then we supplemented and incorporated his deposition. The court, do you have that for me, Ms. Bredehoff? I do. The court, this is the deposition taken on the 14th. Ms. Bredehoff, specifically, the court, So where in here does it talk about, Ms. Bredoff, it specifically incorporates his deposition testimony? Court, well, Mr. Dennison, well, the contention is the last line says, quote, I can talk, I can talk about anything anybody else talks about, end quote. Right. That's not an appropriate disclosure, Ms. Bredoff. No, Your Honor, we did incorporate the court. Well, you just can't incorporate? Who the fuck is Mr. Callahan? I swear, this is these past couple days we've met a new character every day, and it's like towards the end of the trial. Miss Callahan, yeah, that's the court. You can't incorporate it without the deposition. Expert depositions, you can't have him testify. Miss Bredoff, what we did was incorporate what he said. We did incorporate his deposition. Court. But is this specifically put in his supplemental disclosure, Ms. Bredoff? I don't think we went I don't think we went ahead and put everything he said in the deposition. Of course you didn't. Court. You have to put his deposition in. You have to supplement what his opinions are going to be. Ms. Bredoff. Right. But that's just a commentary on a particular. What the hell does that even mean? I mean, he's just saying that evidence supports. Evidence supports what, Elaine? That's an evidence that supports. That makes no sense, Elaine. I'm turning into Emily. The court, right? Judges pretending like that makes any type of sense. Miss Bredoff. Oh, here we go with the major opinion. Oh, no. Miss Bredoff. It's not a major opinion, the court. I understand that. But what Mr. Dennison is talking about, if he's going to opine an opinion that she was credible in her answers to place it, Ms. Bredoff, that's not a major opinion. That is part of the major opinions, Your Honor, are very specific to drugs and alcohol, but he gives all the evidence that supports that. The court, I understand the opinion that she was truthful in her answers. Where is that, Ms. Bredoff? That's not an opinion. That's him saying that based on the test results, she scored this in that particular test result of Dr. Curry, and that means she was incredibly answering those tests. The court, that's an opinion. I'll sustain the objection. Mr. Dennison, no references to Dr. Curry, right? Ms. Bredoff, I don't think you can say he can't make any reference. The court, if he referred to hers in his opinions, that's fine. He can't opine about the results. Mr. Dennison, right. MMPI, that's the issue. There's no reference in this instance to MMPI. I suspect he's going to talk about Dr. Curry's MMPI. Ms. Bredoff, Your Honor, it's not a major part of his opinion. Court, I'm going to sustain that objection. Ms. Bredoff, all right, thank you. Mr. Dennison, thank you, Your Honor. Court, back to open court.
Did you review the deposition and testimony of Dr. Curry?
Dr.
Curry.
Yes, I reviewed Dr. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, so I reviewed testimony of Dr. Curry. I reviewed Dr. Curry's reports. I reviewed Dr. Curry's testimony.
Doc Muffins.
And what if did you review the deposition and trial testimony of Dr. Hughes?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of the disclosure.
I'll allow that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It is probably beyond the scope of the disclosure.
Did you interview Mr. Depp?
No, I did not.
Did you request to interview?
I requested to interview Mr. Depp twice, and both times Mr. Depp and his lawyers refused.
That was a negative ghostwriter.
I'm going to ask you some questions in this case respecting your opinions and the opinions you have formed and the bases for them. And I'm going to ask you to provide me with, in a reasonable degree of medical probability or certainty.
What's interesting is if this is beyond the scope of the disclosure, Depp's team is probably
requested to analyze and opine in this case?
So it's fourfold. One, I was asked to opine about the risk factors that are associated with intimate partner violence.
I don't speculate on diagnoses. I ask the chat not to. I am not a medical expert. I refer to experts in their field.
To be consistent.
It is not mine to have an opinion on,
Mr. Depp
and that is not really for any of us that aren't medical professionals.
I've been asked to opine about the acute effects on alcohol and substance use, and I mentioned that including mood, behavior, cognition, functional impairment.
Doc Brown might be going back in time to fix
Dr.
Dr. Hughes.
The psychological profile, if you would, of is there a question? I'm sorry. Oh, no. Okay. Of psychological and medical sequelae of patients who have suffered intimate partner violence and perpetrated intimate partner violence, and whether or not Mr. Depp's behavior is consistent with that. And lastly, about alcohol and other substance use disorders, their diagnostic criteria, their medical and psychological effects, psychiatric effects, their cognitive
It might
effects.
have been windy when he
and their
came in.
functional effects.
Ms. Butterhoff, I assume you have.
I have quite a bit more.
Let's go ahead and take our morning recess, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you have time for
discuss the
quite a
case and
bit
don't do
more?
any outside research.
All right,
We'll be
we are
back with you.
going to
I'm sorry,
morning
15 minutes.
recess.
We'll just
See
take
you
a
in the
break till
courtroom.
11 then. We'll come
So
back at
we've got a
11. Okay, thank you.
15-minute break.
So this is right after the mid-morning break. All right, the bailiff all rise. Please be seated and come to order. The court all right. Ready for the jury. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, can we approach before the jury gets in the court? Okay, sure. Sidebar. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, I want to be totally mindful of your prior orders. This witness testified that he invited twice Mr. Depp to be examined. Those two invitations were motions to this court to order a medical exam, and both of those were denied. Ms. Brethoff, actually, we did request it, and they said no, and then we moved for it, and you said no. The court, you can address that on cross-examination, Mr. Dennison. But I can mention your order? Ms. Brethoff, we didn't ask whether they will. We did make a request. We requested of them independent of the order. The court, right? But you didn't order afterwards. You asked for an order? Ms. Brethoff, that's correct. The court, you can redirect on that too. That's fine. That's fair game. Mr. Dennison, okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Back to open court.
I know when the actual event happened, there was texting to Dr. Kipper, paraphrasing, not saying exactly, that Amber and him got into a disagreement related to her wanting him to be sober. And then as a result of that, he said he got so angry, he cut the tip of his finger off. So if you're asking me, can someone who has, or have I seen, and can someone who cuts themselves, burns themselves, can cut a tip of their finger off with or without alcohol?
I think they're trying to say it's a higher risk.
Or the rest, the answer is
Objection beyond the scope of the question.
Exactly. Thank you. Please
Was it
continue.
overruled?
Stop arguing, Elaine.
So
Let the
that
judge do
is
their
not
job.
a very far jump. I've certainly seen patients do a lot worse than that who started out with similar risk factors of, burning self and cutting self. I'm not going to get into the descriptions, but
You've seen people
do
that struggle
a
with
lot worse than
addiction
that.
do worse to themselves?
So the answer is yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'm going to turn
I
now
don't doubt that that's
specifically
true,
to intimate
but
partner
okay.
violence, and I know you've talked certainly about it. But can you tell the jury, please, a little bit more about intimate partner violence and what is included in that?
She's repeating previous
So,
testimony from
the
him.
APA
This is
task force
just
on violence in the family
okay.
defined more or less this topic of domestic abuse, intimate
This
partner
seems like an
violence
interesting
as
use of time when they
recurrent
spent a half a
abusive
day with
behavior
Dr. Hughes. More than half a day
by
with Dr.
means
Hughes.
of psychological, sexual, or physical maltreatment for the purpose of achieving control or maintaining power, authority, and control.
Survivors of intimate partner violence experience mental health issues.
I would imagine that's an affirmative because trauma.
Can you repeat the question?
Do survivors of intimate partner violence experience mental health issues?
Hello, Sister Nikki in the UK.
Oh, yes. So survivors of intimate partner violence. And by the way, I should start
The
out
jury
by
can
saying,
start
we
out by
don't
saying whatever you like.
In psychiatry, we don't expect our victims to be perfect. We don't expect
He
our
needed to
victims
address
be
that.
unscathed by what they've received. So starting with that, okay, it is not unusual as survivors to see substance use, substance abuse, substance-induced symptoms, chronic depression, post-traumatic stress disorder.
In your review of this case, is there record evidence of
his verbal
physical violence
cadence.
by Mr. Depp?
So
Objection, Your Honor. No foundation.
Do you want to approach him?
Yeah, let's approach on it.
Sidebar night. Sorry, that was not even a good one. Okay. Here comes another sidebar. The court, yes, sir. I'm sorry, can't. The court, yes, sir. Mr. Jennison, we're getting to this. The court, can you see that question again? Miss Bretterhoff, it's, quote, is there record evidence of physical violence by Mr. Depp, unquote, which is one of the risk factors, and it's in the designations, page 84, paragraph 2. The court, wait. Miss Bretterhoff, quote, is there record evidence of physical violence by Mr. Depp, end quote. I'm not asking if he was a perpetrator. This is physical violence. The court, You're saying if there's physical violence. Ms. Bradoff, yes, that he's engaged in physical violence, but this is very much, it's at page 84, paragraph, the court, I understand that. You're just going to state that he has the risk factors. Oh boy. You're not getting into why he thinks, Ms. Bradoff, yes, he's going through the risk. What are the factors? And he actually says, the court, you can ask that question what the factors are, Ms. Bradoff. But then he also said, and this is part of his opinion, wait, hold on. Everybody, hold on. Is it a major opinion or is it not a major opinion? Because that matters so much. We have to know. But then he also said, and this is part of his unspecified opinion, that there's actually record evidence of him committing physical violence, of sexual violence, psychological regression, which he can testify to that, and that's in his opinion, Mr. Dennison. That's exactly the issue that we raised previously. It's making judgments as to all, the court, right. He's making judgments as to the violence. He can't say that. He can't say that there is known physical acts of Mr. Depp because it isn't, that's what the jury is here to decide, Ms. Bradoff. He can testify that he's read the record. The court, it doesn't come into evidence. You want to testify that he has read reports and evidence. That's what he based his opinions on. That's fine. But he can't say, quote, yes, there's reported times of this, end quote, because he doesn't know that, and that's what the jury has to figure out, Ms. Bradoff. So I can ask him if there's record evidence of physical violence, sexual abuse, and physical aggression, but that he can't say any specifics? The court, what was your question again, Ms. Bradoff? It was, quote, in your review of the case, is there evidence of physical violence by Mr. Depp? End quote. Mr. Dennison. Your Honor, I think it literally continues to invade the province of the jury here. That's specifically one of the issues the jury is going to ultimately decide, and she's asking him to sum it all up for them, and Ms. Bradoff, Your Honor, we disclosed this. The court, I know you disclosed it. We're past disclosure, Ms. Bradoff, and experts are able to testify to ultimate issues as well, but he's going through the 3 different types of IPV here in talking about it. But he's seen recorded evidence that I guess she corrects herself. I don't know why it puts her name again. Record evidence. I'm sorry. The court. Record evidence. I don't want him commenting on the evidence that's before the jury. He can't comment on, quote, yes, he assaulted Miss Heard, end quote, because he doesn't know that. It's in evidence for the jury, Miss Bradoff. And what he said in his report is he said, quote, there are numerous witnesses who report seeing cuts, bruises, and injuries, end quote. How does he know that? So that was me, sorry. I'm just thinking this is absurd. That's just a logical response that I had. How would he know? Okay, sorry. Furthermore, well, where are they? Can they testify at this trial? Because we don't have this. Okay. And it was reported that the court, okay, so that, why don't you ask, quote, what have you reviewed that shows that, quote, or end quote, I'm not sure how you want to do it, but I just don't want him to give any kind of conclusion with respect to the evidence. Makes sense, Mr. Dennison? It makes sense to me, right, of course. He's not going to give, his only conclusion is going to be that he meets the risk factors, not that he's done it, correct, Ms. Bradoff? So I'm going to ask, I just want to make sure, please do a preview. Let's just do a preview. The court. Well, okay, Ms. Bradoff, quote, what have you reviewed that reflects Mr. Depp engaging in physical violence, end quote. The court, nope. Mr. Dennison, objection. The court. You just say, quote, the risk factors, end quote. Risk factors. Say it with me now. Risk factors. Ms. Bradoff. Risk factor relating to physical violence. Oh my God, why? How and why? Risk factor relating to physical violence. That's just one of them. The court, I understand, but what we were discussing earlier is he wasn't going to, Ms. Bradoff, he's engaged in, there's evidence of him engaging in each of the risk factors. The court, right. Just in the risk factors, not engaging in physical violence. Maybe just explaining what the risk factors are first, and then, quote, what have you reviewed? Give us your information that he knew that he was, end quote, Ms. Bradoff. So, if I'm understanding Your Honor's ruling here, this is not that complicated. We all know that. I don't even know why I'm bothering to say that. So, if I'm understanding Your Honor's ruling here, I can't ask him what the record evidence is of Mr. Depp engaging in physical violence, sexual abuse, and instead, I just have to ask him to explain what that is and the significance of it to IPV. The court, what the risks, right, quote, what are the risk factors, end quote, right, and what he reviewed that makes you believe that he correlates with those risk factors. Does that sound all right? Mr. Dennison, yeah, he can identify what the risk factors are for IPV. The court, right, and what he reviewed that would put him on that course. But I just don't want him commenting on the evidence itself. Ms. Sprout, okay, what it correlates, okay. She's out to lunch, as they say. The court, okay, Ms. Sprout, I think so. Thanks, Your Honor. We'll give it a whirl. Dear Mother of God. Mr. Dennison, okay. Back to him in court.
I am very, very interested in seeing how this goes. The way he's turned to the jury, he's just like set up camp, turned to the jury to talk. Doc, it's been interesting.
With the risk factors for IPV,
She lost that objection. Depp, she won that objection. Correlation.
So risk factor review that correlate. So starting with the, I guess we'll start with the physical because that was the question that was.
That means that sidebar cost Elaine time.
Has demonstrated pushing, shoving, grabbing.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yep, outside the scope.
Let me see if I can direct this a little differently, Dr. Spiegel. Rather than giving the summary of what that was,
what were the risk factors
you review that correlates? In other words, did you review witness statements? Did you review depositions, photos?
She's trying to fix it, which is fair.
What I reviewed was in terms of witness statements, Dr. Kipper's notes. Very, very interestingly, actually, early on in I think it was 2012 or around that time, circa 2012, 2014, Ms. Heard was
action beyond the scope of the question.
What he reviews is the question.
All right, let's see.
So I reviewed just the
Oh, Hazel, I'm sorry. Trigeminal is so hard.
Objection. There's no question pending.
If he's answering,
Apology.
go ahead and answer what you reviewed.
Sympathies.
Please continue with what you reviewed.
Trigeminal.
Therapist's notes, counselor's notes.
Yep, journey
text messages, depositions, video, pictures, psychologists' notes and evaluations, and I said physicians' notes. That's what I reviewed.
All right. Now, you've indicated that intimate partner violence includes physical violence, sexual abuse, and psychological aggression.
To help others understand their
Can you please describe for the jury
because I learned
what
from you.
Psychological aggression is and what it entails?
So it says psychological aggression would be the engaging in behavior for the sole purpose of emotionally and or mentally harming someone.
They've heard that audio though. They've heard so much audio. They've heard so much audio.
So behaviors that can occur with psychological aggression include insults, intimidation, holding things financially against someone.
And the jury will get to decide which way this cuts.
Jealousy rants.
That's interesting.
Property destruction. So all that is involved. A nonverbal communication, so threatening looks, glances,
Chat reminds
things like
me,
that.
Do we
all
have
that
evidence?
is involved in psychological maltreatment.
Do we have evidence of Johnny Depp destroying
What, if
Heard's
any,
property other than the painting?
What, if anything, would
Or was it
be
all his own
psychological
property?
aggression if it was
And
trying
why?
to control somebody's career? Would that be a factor?
Yeah,
Section leading.
Overruled.
So yeah, I'm trying to control someone career. That would be under
Technically, it's leading, but he's an
financial-
expert.
The trying to mistreat someone, especially someone wants to succeed and try and have a career, and you're preventing them from doing so by maltreatment.
Oh, the
That's
clothes
another
racks.
example.
Good. Thank you. Also the clothes
So I'm
racks.
going to ask
the closet. Yep.
specifically
Thank you.
about the risk
And the phone.
factors for intimate
Thanks, everybody.
partner
I'd forgotten the
violence.
clothing racks.
Is substance abuse a risk factor for intimate partner
The
violence?
closet. Thank you.
Yes, it is a risk factor as well as a precipitating cause.
And what record evidence did you review that correlates to Mr. Depp engaging in substance abuse?
So the record evidence of, I'll just start with Dr. Kipper.
Ben King said the clothes weren't destroyed in Australia.
The substances that Mr. Depp was using and misusing, both in terms of prescribed and on urine drug screen, were brought out through that.
Okay.
So
Is
Chad,
lack
this is
of
why I asked you, 'cause I
behavioral
forgot.
control and impulsiveness risk factors for intimate partner violence?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And what,
This
if
is-
any,
This is
record evidence were
cumulative
you
and
aware of that
restating.
Mr.
She's wasting
Depp
time here.
had exhibited lack of behavioral control and impulsiveness?
Again, threatening.
Objection. Record evidence.
That correlates with, and I'm on the risk factors at this point. Thank you, Your Honor.
Threatening.
And again, it'll be interesting to see cross on this.
Destroying furniture, property, breaking things, writings on walls, mirrors, writing in blood on furniture. All that would go with that.
Okay. All right. And what, if any, risk factor is narcissism for intimate partner violence?
So,
who's been diagnosed with
before we get
narcissism?
into
Because I haven't
narcissistic
seen it.
personality traits or disorder, the overall, it's categorized under what's called cluster B personality.
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of the question.
He's explaining the narcissism.
No, that wasn't the question, Elaine.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury what's involved with narcissism as it relates to the risk factors of intimate partner violence and what that realm is?
So narcissism patients have, again, poor self-control.
Who's the narcissism patient?
Rapid mood shifts. Okay. As a result, they have an undue sense of admiration. They worship power. They worship control.
This might not go well.
They have lack of empathy, and people are generally kept around as long as they're useful to them. A large sense of entitlement. Anything else? Need for praise. So that would go under narcissistic personality.
Need for praise, like need for approval?
What, if any,
and IPV.
What, if any, traits would be requiring admiration? Would that fit into it?
All the way down to like
admiration need to be
IPV.
admirers, part and parcel of narcissistic personality disorder. Yes.
Would being envious fit within that?
Yes.
Fragile self-esteem?
Yes.
Are they trying? Who are they trying to implicate as
what, if any,
narcissistic?
record evidence do you have that correlates with Mr. Depp being narcissistic?
Are they trying to diagnose him narcissistic?
Well, I do think
without
that
ever evaluating him.
Fact that
yikes,
he thought that Amber owed him, Ms. Heard owed him.
Objection, Your Honor.
Improper expert testimony.
The fact that Ms. Heard owed him and only wanted to be together with him because of his fame is an example of that. To some degree, this whole trial is that.
Objection, Your Honor.
Wait, I wanted to hear what he had to say.
That's not record evidence. Speculation.
Please continue.
That this whole trial, in terms of narcissistic insult, is what's going on. I believe that Mr. Depp was very much a mainstay appropriately in Hollywood, and then this was pulled the rug without.
Objection, Your Honor.
Can he's able to explain what he's sustained that objection. Can you explain what you mean by this whole trial?
This proceeding, this court case we're going through.
There's objections,
Sir. Wow. That's he called the whole trial a narcissistic insult. That's bold.
Sidebar, the court. You want to talk about the court case? I'm not sure, Ms. Bradiff. Well, I think he's just saying, as an example, that the fact that we've got this trial. Oh, God, this part was freaking amazing. Oh, my God. This is one of the best part. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really forget, but in a way, I'm like, wow, I forgot just like how amazing Dr. Spiegel is. Like, definitely a highlight of the trial. Oh boy. Okay, you want to talk about the court case? I'm not sure. Ms. Brough, well, I think he's just saying as an example that the fact we've got this trial, the court, I think it's beyond. Get back to what he reviewed. Ms. Brough, all right, I'll try. The court sustained. Ms. Brough, all right, thank you. Back to open court.
Calling this trial, this entire trial, a narcissistic insult is absolutely bananas to me. He has not treated.
Well, what other conduct is in the record evidence?
The judge,
that
I think, told her to
correlates,
move on.
with Mr. Depp being narcissistic, having those traits.
He's
Was
trying
the
to
thing about the
diagnose.
trial rule. I can't
Yeah,
speak from your
you're not allowed to say that.
Not say that. Okay. The only other thing about narcissism that I think in terms of the trial would be in order to maintain
He's not talking about the
any
trial.
sense of control.
Oh, fuck. He just did
a
exactly what she
narcissistic
said he's not
person
supposed to.
Really has to have lack of empathy, because in order to engage in behaviors that quote unquote are used to keep individuals in control, you don't really think about the other person. You're not really caring what happens.
Did he hear the laughing audio?
So I think that's
Because yikes.
another facet.
Because yeah.
So,
sir,
I'm going to now move to the Goldwater rule. Can you explain the Goldwater rule, please?
Chat, you are so wise.
So the Goldwater rule is when Senator Goldwater was running for presidency.
They're
and
trying to
I'm
get
gonna
out ahead
be honest with you,
of the
I think it was
cross
in the
on
late
this.
60s when he was, early 70s, because
They're trying to get
I
ahead
was
of the cross on this.
too young to even follow politics then. So please don't quote me on exactly when it was. But basically what's happening is,
Yeah, time wasting works in Depp's favor the rest of
clinicians,
this trial.
psychiatrists were making these quote unquote armchair diagnoses from their homes or offices because they saw this person on TV, the way they acted, and were asked to comment about what they think their diagnoses are. And
Sir.
therefore, it was felt that that should not be done by professionals in these public settings.
Sir.
Does it have any applicability here?
No.
Objection.
Or why not?
No foundation.
Elaine said, why not to him?
He was explaining what the Goldwater
You
rule
want to
was.
approach.
Objection. And Elaine goes, why not?
Sidebar. Mr. Dennison, if he wants to testify that there are exceptions to the Goldwater rule, go ahead. But the question was, quote, does it have any applicability here, end quote. Ms. Brough, it's in my designation at page 94, paragraph 1. Mr. Dennison, clearly it's in her designations. The court, what's the foundation? Ms. Brough, it's a psychiatric. It's American Psychiatric Association, and the reason I'm asking him this is Dr. Shaw is one of their experts. He claims that it's unethical for him to be giving these opinions here because he hasn't examined Mr. Depp. And the court, which is the Goldwater rule? Ms. Bredoff, excuse me? Court, which is the Goldwater rule? Ms. Bredoff, right. And so the court, there was a motion to eliminate against this at one point. Was it your motion to eliminate that it mentioned the Goldwater rule? Am I out of bounds here? Ms. Bredoff, I think we had a motion to eliminate to exclude some of Dr. Shaw's testimony. And Your Honor granted that with the court. So is that something your expert is going to be testifying to? Mr. Dennison, yes. The court, okay, I'll allow it. Mr. Dennison, is in that form, does it have any applicability here? Ms. Bredoff, I can ask him that. The court, I'll allow it. Ms. Bredoff, thank you. Mr. Dennison, okay, thank you. Hi-ho, it's back to open court they go.
Does the Goldwater rule have any applicability here to your testimony and your conclusions and
So
opinions?
she won that objection
No,
and
it
is
does
allowed to
not.
continue to ask.
And
for
why?
Multiple reasons. One, the basics of expert witness testimony would almost be thrown away if you are not allowed to base things on what you evaluated of an individual, what you've read about an individual. So if I'm not allowed to comment on records or charts or information that I look, then expert witness testimony can't be done. But more specifically for this case, in the Goldwater rule, the pure version of it was the armchair diagnosis of watching someone on TV. Just you don't make a diagnosis. More recently,
So you watch a YouTube video and call somebody a narcissistic abuser
So
like
you don't
that?
make diagnoses
Maybe like that.
This is not the case here, because like I said to you at the
records.
beginning, I have reviewed a lot of professionals and their evaluations and their treatment course.
Have any of them called
video
Depp
deposition,
narcissistic?
picture deposition, court filings, emails? I mean, I reviewed a whole lot of things that directly describe Mr. Depp and his behavior.
Reviewed a whole lot.
I'm not commenting on a public opinion, and I have absolutely no knowledge of what's in Mr. Depp's history. If I was just doing that, it would be like watching a movie. That's not relevant here.
And in fact, I think you testified earlier, you invited Mr. Depp to.
Oh, yes.
Give an
Again,
Objection leading.
It is.
Overruled.
It's foundational.
To be fair, for an evaluation, for my own direct evaluation, again, I was offered twice that I can do an evaluation of Mr. Depp directly.
He was like negative ghostwriter. The pattern
Mr.
is full.
Depp and or his lawyers decided that wasn't going to happen.
Okay. And in fact, the court did not require Mr. Depp to.
No, the court did not require Mr. Depp to undergo this evaluation.
Interesting.
Okay. Dr. Spiegel, these opinions that you have offered here, do you hold them to within a reasonable degree of medical and psychiatric probability or certainty?
She's almost done.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, cross-examination.
This better be good, Dennison. If it's not good, we're going to say that it's not good. I don't know what else
Sir,
we'll do.
I'm
We'll say
Wayne
it's not
Dennison. We haven't met. But let me ask you, let's start with what you finished with.
I'm sorry, one more time?
Let's start with what you finished with.
Let's open
You
with the
understand
close.
that the court was twice asked by Ms. Heard's counsel to order a medical exam
Oh, dear.
of Mr. Depp, and those motions were denied.
I think your team told the court you didn't want to have them, and the court ruled on them. Right? I don't think the court proactively did it. You kind of had a motion to them, right?
No, when Ms. Heard's lawyers moved for them and asked for them and did not.
We talked about this morning.
Isn't that right, sir?
Oh, boy.
If you're saying that's what happened, my understanding of was that you all did not want him to undergo one. They petitioned for it. The court said no. Yes, that's what my
Same
understanding
thing.
was.
Same.
The court said no to ordering Mr. Depp to do the medical exam.
Right. I said the court did not require it. Right.
And there was one that was ordered, in fact, right?
There was.
All right.
This is already in evidence, Elaine.
Your Honor, may we approach the court? All right, sidebar time. The court. We're not going into this. Mr. Dennison, there you go. Miss Breda, thank you. Wow. Back to open court. That was a good one.
Well, at least that was fast.
All
He
right.
barely had time to walk up and back down. Oh, he moved
The
on.
last thing you talked about
He's moving on. Interesting.
was the Goldwater rule.
Yes, sir.
Been around for almost 50 years, right?
I don't know. When was Barry Goldwater
I'm
in
59. That
office?
sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's been around as a result of a presidential election that you referenced.
Yes.
And who has that rule? What organization maintains that rule?
The American Psychiatric Association.
An association you're a member of.
Association that I'm a member of, yes.
Aren't you a fellow or something?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, and
Wait, you're not
this
a
is
member,
an
but you're a
ethical
fellow?
rule, right?
It is an ethical rule. And yes, it's ethical. They say rules. It's an ethical guideline. Yes, they're guidelines.
It's more of a guideline.
You know that over time,
like the code, it's more of a
American
guideline.
Psychiatric Association has amended the rule, so it's not just about diagnoses, but it's also about professional opinions.
Could you be more specific, say about professional opinion in regard to what?
Well, let me read this and see if you're familiar with it. It is unethical for a psychiatrist to offer a professional opinion about an individual based on publicly available information without conducting an examination. That's the rule, right?
If you're reading it directly, I will believe you.
Okay. Psychiatrists are ethically prohibited from evaluating individuals without permission or other authorization, such as a court order. That's the rule, right?
Again, if you're reading that, then I have to believe you're not misrepresenting it. And I would come back to you again.
Chat got to this like an hour and a half ago because y'all so smart.
Get rid of all the expert witnesses we've had throughout all of time for court proceedings.
No.
Because you're saying
a lot of them did evals.
Orders it, and that's what you just said, or the APA said. Then, therefore, expert witnesses cannot do an evaluation based on an observation of the medical records. Insurance companies cannot do evaluations solely based on medical records where their doctors rendering professional opinions. So at the end of the day, you are essentially saying that unless someone has directly evaluated it, this whole medical system we have, this whole legal system we have is null and void.
That's reframing the question. That's not what he said.
Sir.
No, he isn't.
You are.
Give me a second and I'll give you more than
question. That's not what he said.
What I'm
my God.
What I am reading to you is a rule
this is gonna get good.
by your organization that takes into account that there could be court orders that would permit the exact kind of evaluation that you say
orders are for.
Eliminated.
Best cross from Denison so far.
I think we're going in circles because I think I just said that means expert witness testimony would not be allowed, and the branch of forensic psychiatry would be especially hindered. And we know the branch of forensic psychiatry does not prohibit that.
Forensics.
So I am a member of the APA. That doesn't necessarily mean every single thing they put in there, everybody has to uncategorically agree with. Because clearly that's not the case.
Did you
Forensics do evaluations.
The professional opinions
and they're not psychiatrists.
Were inconsistent with the Goldwater rule.
Yeah. My first was inconsistent. If we're saying that if the Goldwater rule says, and I very much said that during deposition, that the Goldwater rule was made for presidents and public figures such as that, but regardless of that, because that's what it was made for.
Figure.
It's not made for Hollywood, but I'll even take that Mr. Depp's a public figure. What I'm saying to you is that the Goldwater rule is saying we cannot do any expert witness testimony in our field
without
exactly what
an evaluation.
The Goldwater rule is saying based on exactly what you read. And I'm just telling you what you are saying that rule encompasses.
What I'm asking you, sir, is did you comply with the ethical
I bet you the jury just woke up too.
Of the APA
for whether he's ethical or not. That's what the jury woke up for.
Rendering the professional opinions that you've rendered today.
It is a requirement of the APA. It is not the requirement of the APA. Secondarily,
so the answer is no.
Secondarily, again, in order to not, we wasted our whole morning because there was an expert witness before me. There's an expert witness who's everyone brought in. So all I'm saying to you, that means
everybody else does it. So can I? No.
And unethical for engaging in an act that the APA clearly says
everyone else gets to play Call of Duty.
If you're saying that, then the answer is yes. I'm agreeing with that statement.
Oh shit!
You're agreeing that the APA would deem your testimony and your professional opinions rendered unethical.
I am saying you are saying that I'm an expert witness. I'm saying as an expert witness.
I'm saying that you're saying that I'm saying that what you're saying is that this is unethical.
That guideline is permitting that from occurring. I would say then that the whole field of expert witness testimony, again, would be disavowed by what you are quoting in the Goldwater rule. And we know that's not the case, because if it was, we would not be allowed to do it.
You're the only psychiatrist that's done it.
Right?
And that was initially for presidents, yes.
But, and the name of the rule came from that. But the
You're
rule
the only
says it is
psychiatrist.
unethical for a psychiatrist to offer a professional opinion about an individual. That's right, sir. It's not just presidents. It's not public figures. It's individuals.
Funny, it was named after according to your logic, if you don't put something in the title, it's not true. That's what you told me this morning.
That's not what he said.
Intimate partner violence.
Oh, he's still mad
at
Denison.
What I would say to you then, sir, is that if you say this about an individual, again, any court would have to render an expert witness testimony invalid. Any doctor that reviews charts would have to render it invalid. I can go on the list of docs that do not see their patients directly, and that's a violation. So basically, you are saying that
not all docs,
clinical evaluation, then all of the field of forensic psychiatry and all of managed care is doing an unethical violation because we are not seeing the presence. We deny patients medications all the time without seeing them. We deny patients treatments, unfortunately, without seeing them. And I'm on the receiving end of that. So the answer to your question, again, unless you were saying to me that all of this is unethical, which is what you are saying. This is how I'm interpreting what you are saying to me. That unless you do the evaluation directly yourself, therefore, it could not be considered ethical.
Yes.
And I'm telling you how that applicable to not just expert law,
to you.
but also managed care. It applicable to multiple
Managed care is not testifying.
Hospital duration of hospitalization stay, they get evaluated. So tell me where you want me to end this.
Well, why don't we talk about
the propriety of your testimony
you just testified to? Because I didn't ask you anything about that. I asked you whether under this rubric, under this principle of medical ethics, have you acted unethically? Yes or no?
No. As an expert witness, I have not acted unethically. And if you want the jury to believe that expert witnesses are unethical, then I guess that's for them to decide.
That's for them to decide. You said no. Let's go to the next question.
You were diagnosing somebody narcissistic.
This rule applies broader than diagnoses. It applies to professional opinions.
I believe
you've rendered professional opinions relative to narcissistic personality traits, haven't you, sir? Relative to Mr. Depp.
Again, I believe you just commented on what it takes to do in a psychiatric evaluation to establish a diagnosis. I'm almost certain that's what you said. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you didn't say that.
Let's read it back.
Sure you did. And therefore, what I'm saying is neither IPV nor substance usage nor narcissistic personality traits a psychiatric diagnosis. And then
narcissistic personality traits aren't a diagnosis. He said it was a cluster B.
On the rubric of expert witness testimony. So if you, sir, would like to proceed that expert witnesses aren't ethical, based on that, I am not going to sit here and disagree with you and waste everyone's time.
You're sitting there disagreeing now.
But thank you. I'll go ahead.
You're literally doing that now.
Your words. I'm just saying them back how they're interpreted.
Okay.
He's enjoying this way too much. Take a breath,
Let's start with the easy question then.
Take a breath, Dennison.
Maybe we can.
That was pretty easy. Go ahead.
Doctor, you're going to have to just answer the questions.
Yeah, Doc, you're going to need to chill the fuck out.
You need to just answer the questions, Dr. Spiegel.
The judge is now yelling at Dr. Spiegel.
You are not rendering any diagnosis whatsoever of Mr. Depp today or ever.
Why'd you call him narcissistic? Yeah, take a minute, Dr. Spiegel. Just think about the question real carefully.
No, I probably would say to you that certainly I would not say narcissistic personality, or I would say traits. Certainly from what I have read, intimate partner violence is not a diagnosis. So the answer is no for that. Narcissistic personality traits is not a diagnosis. The answer is no. But if you want to tell me that substance use disorder is a psychiatric diagnosis, the answer is yes. And
you just said
that wasn't an issue,
diagnosis.
Was it? Whether Mr. Depp used substances.
I didn't think this was going to be this spicy.
I mean, you said you've gone through the record. That wasn't really an issue at this trial. He said it from day one.
Oh, so you're saying he's already admitted to the diagnosis?
He's already admitted to the use of the substances.
Well, again, there's a difference between admitting to substance use and substance use disorder.
Let's go back.
Dennison pissed this doctor off earlier, and it is paying off now.
Narcissistic personality traits.
Yes.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a DSM-5 diagnosis, correct?
Correct.
Diagnostic personality, and you haven't testified that Mr. Depp has narcissistic personality disorder.
I would certainly, if I didn't, I'm certainly thinking that, but at least I'm going to say he has traits, which are characteristics of provisional diagnosis of, it's a provisional diagnosis of probably narcissistic personality disorder. But yeah, I mean, I do believe that.
When you say provisional diagnosis, you know the DSM-5 requires, in order to find that diagnosis, 5 of the 9 factors.
Mm-hmm. I'm probably thinking
you haven't done that analysis. You've never made that diagnosis. You've just identified certain factors.
They're just going to shred his credibility and then leave it.
That are criteria for the diagnosis.
Right.
They're just
but you
shredding
need 5
his credibility.
of 9 to get to the diagnosis. You've already told us that you didn't make a diagnosis. You're just
go back to the doctor. The doctor's getting spicy. Depp's pissed. The doctor's spicy.
I'm identifying traits that are consistent with the diagnosis. Yes.
Thank you, Court TV.
And did you testify in deposition that the existence of traits as opposed to the disorder doesn't have a correlation with IPV.
If I said traits do not have a correlation with that's what I said, and I don't remember saying that, but that wouldn't be a correct thing. Narcissism has a correlation with the diagnosis. Yes, that part's true.
All right, how far are we going to back this up? Because there's a diagnosis of narcissistic.
How far are we going to backpedal?
Right?
Yes, sir.
And that one is has some correlation with IPV, right?
Narcissism has correlation with IPV. Again, you're not allowing me to answer. You're splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs between the traits that are consistent with, which all I'm commenting on.
Have you met lawyers?
Is behaviors and traits that are consistent with
precise jobs
and Mr. Depp.
You're splitting hairs.
Absolutely
has
risk factors associated with IPV. Let's go back again, and maybe we can focus
and
on the question I asked you.
Same thing.
And we can get an answer that's addressed
and
to
pledged.
that question.
Same things. It's just all splitting hairs. Y'all are splitting hairs.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a risk factor for IPV. Yes or no?
Yes.
And you previously testified that there is no literature at which you are currently aware that the mere presence of narcissistic traits is a risk factor for IPV.
Am I answering the question?
Yes.
That's incorrect.
You didn't testify that.
A cluster B traits, which narcissistic personality disorder is part of, is a huge risk factor for intimate partner violence, which cluster B traits include narcissistic personality disorder,
borderline
antisocial personality disorder, amongst others. So the answer to the question
list the
is
others.
Every resource
list the other cluster Bs.
Violence will
list the other cluster Bs. What about
cluster
BPD
B
and
traits,
HPD?
where narcissistic personality falls under is a risk factor for intimate partner violence.
Any single trait.
That's good testimony for Depp.
Is a risk factor for IPV.
I will repeat. Cluster B traits.
Ask him to
name
them.
Any trait. I said cluster.
Ask him.
No,
let me be more
ask
precise
him
then.
to name them.
Any narcissistic trait.
Yeah, Dennison showed up this morning.
In and of itself.
Had his Wheaties.
Is
coffee,
a risk factor for IPV.
And we're in the multiverse of madness
but
now.
You are mischaracterizing what I said. What I said, I'm pretty sure I said cluster. If you look at all the intimate partner violence literature, and it would behoove you to do so, you will see that cluster B traits. I didn't say narcissistic per se. Cluster B traits.
He's backpedaling.
Where narcissistic personality disorder is part of, are risk factors for intimate partner violence, part and parcel, uniformly true.
Universally true.
The thing I don't understand is I'm not sure why we're arguing psychiatry, because I'm telling you what it is.
Dr. Siegel, you just need to answer the questions.
Okay.
He's getting admonished by the judge again.
So you want to talk about cluster B, so let's do that for a
Yes, let's do that.
Borderline personality disorder.
Good follow-up, Dennison.
Is a risk factor for
Thank
IPV.
you for being logical.
As part of cluster B traits, yes.
Histrionic personality disorder is a risk factor for IPV.
Less so.
Ooh, her team's going to use a lot of time on redirect.
I mean, it's a risk factor, but less so, yes. Less so.
It's cluster B, isn't it?
All right.
Aren't they all cluster B?
Which traits under narcissistic, before I move on there, there's only been one diagnosis in court of personality disorders, correct?
There it is.
I'm not sure who you're referring to. Are you referring to Mr. Depp, Ms. Hurt? Who? I'm not sure what you were talking about.
Yeah, you can inform
Do you
him.
understand that there was a medical examination done of Ms. Hurt?
Oh, shit. Yes, I did.
Do you understand that the testimony was ultimately that Ms. Hurd suffers from 2 personality disorders?
Okay, so I'm just being specific. I just wanted to know if you're talking about Ms. Hurd or Mr. Depp. So that's all I was asking you.
Yes or no to my
Can you
question?
answer the question?
Which was there's only one diagnosis of Ms. Hurd was diagnosed with that.
Yeah. And both
Did you
of
evaluate
the
that?
diagnoses are in cluster B, and both of them are risk factors for IPV.
This has gone off the rails.
But both those cluster B things are, I'm not allowed to comment on the testing. So therefore, all I can say is that cluster B trace, and I'll tell you what they are. And by the way, I testified this before, which was that one, I don't expect perfection from my victims. Two, absolutely there were cluster B trace Ms. Hurd had. Absolutely, Ms. Hurd had.
Given that you've testified to it before,
who told you you weren't allowed to? Who told you you weren't allowed to comment on the testing?
You.
Who told you that?
In your opinion today, that you thought
this chat, man.
Well, why don't we move a little differently? Are you a member of the American Medical Association?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what the ethical rule of the American
Wait,
Medical
Dennison, don't go back. We don't care anymore. Keep going down the other road. Cluster Bs. You're on cluster Bs. Go back.
Clinical diagnoses about individuals you've never talked to.
So you're saying in terms of doing expert witness evaluations under that rubric, right?
I'm just asking you, do you know the AMA's rule?
You're saying the AMA's ruling under the rubric of not doing evaluation with somebody you did not see. And I'm questioning, I'm asking, so you are talking about expert witness testimony?
No, I'm talking about, do you know the rule?
I'm not a member of the AMA, so I don't read the rule.
Okay, great. You don't know the rule.
Great. No, gallery, don't laugh. Let's move on.
You rendered an opinion about Mr. Depp's purported cognitive impairment.
Yes.
Good use of purported.
What do you use as a baseline?
A baseline for processing speed?
Chat, you all brought this up.
For analyzing Mr.
Chat,
Depp
you all
before
brought this
you watched
up.
his deposition.
When he started, you all got there first.
For that. Oh. I mean, I guess my baseline would probably be how I've seen him interact in public. How I've seen him interact with others. I've seen him interact in media. I've seen him interact and his process speed is certainly not slow. I've seen him do commercials. His process speed was not slow.
You've seen him do commercials?
In deposition, didn't you say that what you did was compare Mr. Depp's performance in lots of pirate movies?
You're making his acting a baseline?
What I said was I've seen Mr. Depp.
His acting can't be the baseline. His acting can't be the baseline.
Ads. I remember he did apology ad with Bad Dog with no delay in process speed. I've seen him interact with the media regarding to that. I saw no delay in processing speed. All I'm saying.
Let me ask you about pirates, though. You compared pirates to the depositions given in this case.
And I apologize for what I said. Then I misspoke.
You misspoke?
Look at Ben Chu.
Make the comparison?
Right now,
Did you just admit to lying in deposition? Look at Ben Chu.
I may have said that I misspoke. I apologize. I misspoke.
Okay. Because you know you can't compare pirates to sworn testimony, right?
Yes.
Bring up the deposition. Pull up the deposition.
But you can. But as an aside, you can judge someone's processing speed at any time. Like I'm judging yours right now. You're judging mine. We all judge processing speed as a baseline because of what we know about each other. I would say your processing speed right now is not slow.
Sir, is acting real life?
I mean, we're judging processing speed.
Is this real life? Have we slipped into another timeline?
So, but no.
Did the jury just laugh?
Depp's other portrayals in movies, did that affect your analysis of processing speed?
Only I've seen him interact on interviews, and that was it. Right. When he wasn't in movies.
Right. But Willy Wonka doesn't matter to you? You see him in that movie, Charlie and Chocolate Factory? Did you look at that one when you were comparing his processing speed?
What just happened? What is he doing with his mouth?
Do I have to answer that question, Your Honor?
You have to answer the question.
Sir, you have to answer the question.
I didn't see Willy Wonka. I didn't see 21 Jump Street when it happened. Whatever it was about. No, I did not.
What the fuck is happening?
All right. You made a very kind admission.
Your Honor, do I have to admit? Do I have to answer?
You're not claiming to be a better actor than Mr. Depp. That's correct, isn't it?
100%.
All right. But with respect to acting, you know that actors actually rehearse for their parts and work on the language, diction, timing of their dialogue as part of that rehearsal?
Actors rehearse?
If you say that, I'm not an actor, so I don't know what goes on. I can't tell you. I have no idea what goes on in acting.
Okay. But You don't know enough about acting to know whether actors rehearse?
Sir, I am not an expert in acting. I have no idea what an actor does.
Okay.
But I'm glitching. But you compared his pirates to his baseline in your depo. Bring up the depo. Read the depo. But he admitted it, so it's not really impeachment. But I just want to know because I'm
During your
curious.
deposition, what were the circumstances under which you decided to call Mr. Depp an idiot?
Under somebody called Mr. Depp an idiot?
Yeah, you called Mr. Depp an idiot in your deposition.
Okay. So I think it was in the context. You probably should read the context of it, because I think the context was, and I'm trying to think back.
He just asked you the context,
and what
sir.
I thought it was related to was if you're coming to some deposition, okay? And again, I'm thinking back. So you have it in front of you. I don't. So
obviously,
I'm thinking back where he's coming in from Europe for a deposition, video deposition that he gave, and he took an overnight the night before. And what I think I said was that if you're going to do a major thing to a trial that you're involved with, I think you'd be an idiot to come in the night before. All right. So I didn't call Mr. Depp an idiot. I certainly called that planning an idiot. I didn't call him an idiot.
So the words, so I mean he's an idiot, are mistranscribed?
No, I'm sure. Again, if I said it in that, if you're just reading one line, one snippet, I'm sure it was in the context I just said. But again, you have it in front of you. I don't.
Yeah. Is idiot a professional opinion?
I wasn't running professional.
Oh,
Is
shit.
it a psychiatric opinion?
And that follows the Goldwater rule.
How does it follow the?
Well, you just said that I'm not rendering a professional opinion. I just said idiot. That's not a.
No, so idiot is not a professional opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Is it your practice to describe people as idiots?
My practice in my practice? No, I don't describe people my clinical cases as idiots or patients as idiots or victims as idiots. No, sir.
But you sat for a deposition in this case and described the plaintiff as an idiot, correct?
You gave me 9 hours of deposition. And if I said the word
deposition's
idiot,
the problem.
It was an idiot in planning. It wasn't making him an idiot.
Read it again, Dennison.
Mr. Depp's IQ. I don't know his
Read it again.
functioning. So therefore, if I said it, it was an idiot in planning, which is what I meant to come across as.
All right. So you did say you don't know his overall functioning, but you made some testimony today as to some evaluations you made relative to his functioning. You would agree with me that it's probably a good idea
floored.
To think about the questions that are asked you in a court proceeding before answering.
Am I allowed to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you allowed to answer? Ben Shoe's like, you better.
When I said my function, I believe that his agent reported how late he was
I need
showing up to every movie while the cast is waiting for him. I believe that would be an impairment. If I showed up late for that, I would not be here right now. I would not have a job. Okay.
Are you going to have a job after this?
Was in terms of balking out of treatment for substance rehab that his doctor is prescribing for him. So if you're asking me if that's an impairment of functioning, I would say I'm very much substantiated in that.
I'm trying to understand
I don't know
how you got to this notion
I don't think this can be good.
Decline. And I thought it was based at least in part on the manner in which he testified.
That's for closing.
I'm sorry, what?
On the manner in which he testified.
On the manner, I'm not being difficult. I can't hear. I'm sorry. On what?
I was asking you about the cognitive decline.
Yes, the jury's awake now.
Yes.
And it was my understanding that at least a portion of that testimony that you rendered was that
I don't know how you redirect
derived
this.
Some evidence of cognitive decline from the way
Somebody
Mr.
get this
Depp
witness some muffins.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I said. Yes.
Right. And so all I'm asking you is
this is absolutely
don't you think it's a good
ridiculous
idea when you're in the middle of a court proceeding to answer questions carefully?
Again, professionally, we diagnose patients with a neurocog disorder by gross evaluation all the time with cognitive. On the thought that, again, age normal controls. I'm just saying, age normative controls does not put a 58-year-old gentleman.
I'm just saying
at that processing. That's all I'm saying.
Are you aware that he's been diagnosed with ADHD? Ask it at least once.
You derived this without ever once talking to the man.
Yep.
Me directly talking to him.
Yep.
Because we know how I derived it. So you're talking about me directly talking to him?
Yep.
You never talked.
No, I've never talked to him.
Right. And this.
I don't want us to break for lunch. I don't want us to break for lunch.
Well, you did talk about Dr. Blaustein, right?
Yes, sir.
And you understand that the entirety of Dr. Blaustein's medical records are 12 pages of handwritten notes.
Psychiatrist.
The important part was what I said. For me, as an example of cognition, which I'm trying to prove, which is what you asked me, the important part was what I said.
The important part was what I said.
Irrefutable.
Irrefutable.
The important part is that he gave the mini mental status exam.
Irrefutable.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's talk about the mini mental status exam. Scored on a 30-point scale, right?
Yes.
All right. And it's an exam that basically is most often used for Alzheimer's, dementia, those kind of testing.
It's an exam that tests cognition in all.
Don't stop for lunch. Don't stop for lunch. Don't stop for lunch.
Not just Alzheimer's. It was made for dementia for Alzheimer's, but has been the standard for testing cognition in all psychiatric illness, substance use disorders included.
Okay. Now, there is an element of that exam that requires drawing, correct?
Yes.
So you don't know what drawing Mr. Depp did or whether the drawing should have been fully scored.
I wasn't questioning his visual spatial perceptual skills, which is what that does.
Right.
Huh.
And you don't know what score Mr. Depp received on the exam.
I was very specific. I know 3 words, not remembering at 5 minutes. That's all I said.
3 words, not remembering 5 minutes, and he remembered one of them, right?
From what I understand, he didn't remember any of them.
But you just testified to 2 minutes ago.
One way or the other.
With respect.
How he scored on the exam.
And peace and love.
You don't know whether he was at the time on drugs and alcohol.
No, don't sit down, Dennison. Don't sit down. Keep going.
On it in your testimony to say that he's cognitively impaired.
Which is what we do in clinical medicine, sir.
What you found hard to believe, sir, was that every line of the script was pumped through an earpiece.
And that's not what the evidence shows.
Where did you ever get the idea that occurred?
That's what I read in the court review, the court evidence. That's where I got it from.
What did you read? That's contrary to the evidence.
Whether Marlon Brando used an earpiece?
That's contrary to the evidence.
Isn't he dead?
Yeah.
So the answer is no, he does not use one now.
No, I used the past tense.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fucking
again, I know nothing. I will concede to you, I know nothing about acting. I will concede to you.
So then you don't know if it's normal or not.
And people are done that acting, then I apologize, and that was wrong on my part.
Does that change your
That's the
opinion?
standard, I'm wrong. I don't
Does
know.
that change your opinion?
Okay. Let's go with that.
Does that change your opinion?
Right.
Oh, yes.
A bit. You may want to take.
All right, let's go ahead and break for lunch then, ladies and gentlemen. Again, do not do any outside research. Do not discuss your testimony with anybody, okay?
Y'all, I don't have words for the cross-examination of the expert Dr. Spiegel we just saw. Turn this volume up.
Spiegel, you were asked about whether you were able to examine Mr. Depp. Do you recall those questions back
This
and
isn't
forth?
where you want to go
And
first.
so if I understand your testimony, you asked twice for Mr. Depp to be interviewed by you, correct?
Yes. Objection leading.
And
overruled.
And then in addition to that, Ms. Heard requested twice of the court for Mr. Depp to be submitting to an examination of you, correct?
Yes.
And those were denied, correct?
Yes.
And now Mr. Depp is contending that it's unethical for you to provide an opinion in this case because you didn't get an opportunity to interview.
They straight up
him. Do you
implied
think
that.
that makes sense?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right.
Calls for a
Is that
legal
your
conclusion.
understanding?
That is my understanding of it.
Okay. And the third one you discussed was exploitative. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the record evidence that Mr. Depp exhibits behaviors that are exploitative?
Again, I think the whole concept of abuse is exploitative.
Okay. The fourth one was lacks empathy. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And what is the record evidence that Mr. Depp exhibits lacking empathy?
To be able to commit intimate partner violence and the control you have over someone.
I'm sorry?
Oh, it's based on his assumption that Depp committed IPV.
Okay.
So it's based on his determination that Depp lacks empathy is based, this is where he's getting, is based on his assumption that Depp committed IPV.
Sidebar, Mr. Dennison. He started his response with, He started his response with, quote, to be able to commit intimate partner violence, end quote. Miss Bredoff, all right, I'll redirect him. The court, all right. Open court.
I'm just going to ask you to give the record evidence of
not your
Mr. Depp's lacking empathy that you know of.
What record?
Yes.
It's going to be a mess.
Am I allowed to elaborate?
Yes, just a little different than what you said before.
Okay. So if
it's based on your assumption, that's why you can't answer.
One does
no.
So I'll make it more
no
direct.
recross.
So if you're not agreeing with
He's
what
paid.
Mr. Depp has to say,
Experts are paid.
You
That's
are
not
no longer useful.
weird.
Okay. Therefore, you don't really care about others for others. You care about others for your benefit.
All right. Now, we've seen Mr. Depp during this trial doodling and eating candy. What, if any, evidence would that suggest that he has narcissistic traits?
Objection, Your Honor. No foundation.
I'll sustain the objection.
Wow.
Now, you also indicated earlier that you reviewed.
I don't know if
the
this is going to
deposition of
undo
Amy
what
Banks,
happened
correct?
on cross, though.
Yes.
And what, if any,
Even though it's helpful testimony for her, I don't know if that's
determinations
going to
did
help.
you make based on her deposition from her meetings with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
So Dr. Banks is a professor who at Harvard, the leading institution in America for medical schools.
Objection,
who's an
speculation.
expert on intimate partner violence. She had a chance to meet them in relationship counseling.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
It's totally
It's not non-responsive. I said, what, if anything, did she find? All right. What, if anything, did Dr. Banks indicate relating to histrionic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder for Ms. Heard?
Dr. Banks didn't mention anything about personality disorder at all. What she did mention was whom she felt gave a more accurate version of.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Speculation.
That's a credibility.
Speculation.
I think he can testify.
It's going to state of mind.
Next question.
What, if anything, did Dr. Banks report, not saying what the ultimate conclusion was, what, if anything, did Dr. Banks say about what was reported to her by Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp and how they responded?
So Ms. Heard discussed the, in trying to, again, as a victim, trying to save the relationship, discussed with Dr. Banks these accusations, these facts of intimate partner violence. Mr. Depp.
Objection, hearsay.
I think he's entitled to rely on hearsay, and he's not giving what ultimately
He's repeating
He's
it.
entitled to it. That's
You can rely on hearsay, but you just
can't repeat it.
State the hearsay. So you can rely on it.
All right. What, if anything, did Mr. Depp do in response?
Mr. Depp said nothing. When Ms. Heard accused him of intimate partner violence, Mr. Depp said nothing.
And what is the significance
Objection,
of that?
hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right. And what is the significance of that?
Strike it and admonish
the
this
significance
witness.
of that is with
Objection, no foundation.
Sustain.
The chat has lost interest
And
in
what,
you,
if any,
sir, and has
evidence,
gotten sarcastic,
does
and I'm here
this,
for it.
Correlate with behavior indicative of IPV perpetration?
again, this is intimidation, psychological abuse, where you're solely trying to emotionally.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we be heard?
Okay, if you want to.
Sidebar, Mr. Dennison. It's a form of him saying that this is psychological abuse. This is the exact same thing, this is the exact thing we're going to preclude him from talking about. Ms. Bredoff, I don't agree, Your Honor. He testified to the risk factors. One of the risk factors, risk factors. This is not about risk factors. Mr. Dennison, that question I like. I think it's responsive. But the answer after the court, if you can just get him there with the risk factors, you'll be fine. Ms. Bredoff, thank you. Back to open court.
Because it's
Dr. Spiegel, if
taking
you,
something out of the hands of the
If you can
jury.
answer the question, what, if any, evidence is this correlating to the risk factors.
That's a
for
terrible
IPV
question.
perpetrator?
Again, I think the violence comes through.
The violence.
Objection, Your Honor.
Ask a
Just
better
the evidence
question,
for risk
Elaine.
factors, if you can. Now, you were also asked about Seroquel and some of the other prescription medications. Did you, during
I'm
the
eating my
course
last
of
cracker,
your
Elaine.
review of evidence, see the
Don't mess it up.
lists of
keep going.
medications that Mr. Depp was on at one point?
Yes, I read that list.
Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Defendant's Exhibit 301. And Dr. Spiegel, it's not into evidence yet. I'm going to ask you to take a look at this. Is this one of the documents that you had that reflected the amount of medication that Mr. Depp was on as of October 26, 2014?
Yes.
Okay. And
2014.
This was an email from Debbie Lloyd to Dr. Blaustein, his treating psychiatrist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jury that we've got Seroquel 50 mg? Can you just
Objection,
tell,
hearsay.
can you just tell the I haven't finished asking the question.
You're reading it into the record,
So,
Elaine.
Let's approach.
Okay.
I don't have words. I just.
Court, let's approach. Get over here now. Ms. Bardoff. Okay. Sidebar time. The court. The hearsay is going to take the hearsay is going to take over. You know, yes, agreed. And so that's why, Ms. Bardoff, right, I'm going to ask him how much Seroquel he was taking per day and what the significance of that was. I'm going to do the same with the Adderall. I'm going to do the same with newer, whatever the newer. She doesn't even know. Whatever the newer. Oh, is she referring to the to Roxycodines? Whatever the newer, the ones that we asked about, Mr. Dennison, the document did not get in evidence. There's no foundation for this document other than the question, Ms. Bardoff. He's entitled to rely on hearsay, Your Honor. The court, he can rely, but you can't get the hearsay in. Yeah, this was another one. She has a tough time with understanding this part, too. Ms. Bardoff, well, he can say how much he was taking and then what the impact of that was. The court, he isn't saying how much. He can do a hypothetical if somebody takes him around. Do you agree with that? Mr. Dennison, yeah. He can do a hypothetical. The court, he can do a hypothetical. Ms. Bardoff, all right, I'll ask him that way. Thank you. Mr. Dennison, thank you. Oh, court.
Elaine and I can't have a conversation because if she said, what, if anything, do you need help with? I would have to hang up the phone.
So, Dr. Siegel, if someone was taking 50 milligrams
Megabytes.
of Seroquel,
They're megabytes.
25 milligrams of Seroquel,
Megabytes.
and 50 milligrams of Seroquel and 50 all in one day, how would that impact them?
So obviously this is not for sleep because
Why?
I'm presuming you're not wanting to sleep in the morning, noon, and from 4 to 6, although you're sleeping at night. What I would say is he's using it for one purpose, as I say, with substance use disorder. They're using it to calm down. They're using it just as a down and a relax. And given that you're taking 45 milligrams of Adderall a day to stay awake, and that's more than the prescribed for adults and children for that matter.
Really?
Combination
it's
makes
more
very
than
little
what's
sense
prescribed for children,
to me.
Doc?
And if a person was taking 300 milligrams
he didn't even
of
answer.
Neurotin, I'm going to pronounce that wrong again.
You're on.
4 times a day and 600
Okay,
later
let's see
in
if
the
the candy's
day,
good.
how would that impact?
Again,
person?
you're looking at medications that are there solely
Not too sour.
for a substance use disorder patient to get them up and to calm them down. That's all this regimen is about.
Did any of
And
the
you
questions
diagnosed him with
asked
that
by
then?
Mr. Depp's counsel change any of your opinions in this case?
Nothing there. No, not my opinion has not been swayed an iota.
Okay. Do you
Not
hold
one
them all
iota.
still within a reasonable degree of
He
medical and
apologized.
psychiatric probability or certainty?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Spiegel.
All right. Thank you. Sir, you can have a seat in the courtroom or you're free to go. Thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
you
your
might want
next
to leave,
witness.
bro. Who's the next witness?
My next witness is Kathryn Arnold.
Bummer. It's bummer in that it's not Johnny Depp. Also bummer in that Elaine is doing the next questioning.
solemnly swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case?
Camille's all of us. Did you see her just going, oh, yep. I'm also mad they didn't bring up his diagnosis of ADHD. I find it very annoying. I don't know who this is.
Right, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Find out as the
Will
jury
you
does.
please state your name for the record?
Kathryn Arnold.
All right. And what is your profession?
I am an entertainment industry consultant, and I
Damages.
also serve as an expert witness.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to move to qualify Kathryn Arnold as an expert in the
damages.
entertainment industry standards and practices and related economic damages.
All right. Any objection?
There shouldn't be.
All right. So moved.
Thank you. What, if any, other negative press was there in this time frame? We'll take 2017, 2018, before the op-ed.
So in 2018, there was the Rolling Stones article that was an in-depth expose on Mr. Depp's life.
And this has been
his
referred
erratic
to
behavior,
by Disney
the money
as
he was
well.
spending on wine.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I think she can give generally, Your Honor.
What you think's irrelevant, Elaine?
All right.
She's relating the things.
What, if any, knowledge do you have of how
Did you look
whether
at the-
Disney saw the Rolling
Could
Stone
the Rolling
article?
Stone article have impacted
There were
his
emails
reputation?
between the publicity department and the co-chairs and some of the senior executive Disney that they would forward the articles as they came out, both the Hollywood Reporter article and the Rolling Stones article, and they would make commentary. And Alan Horn, who is the one of the co-chairs of Disney, used the word sad. And I think one of the other executives used depressing, that their film star was now being shown in this light to the public in a Rolling Stones magazine.
Objection, hearsay.
That's speculative as to what they thought when they said sad and depressing, just to
Was
be
there
fair.
any more articles
speculative.
about Pirates of the Caribbean prior to the op-ed in December of 2008?
Oh, is she saying Rolling Stones? I
There was an
didn't even catch
article
that.
in October 28th, the Hollywood Reporter, October 28th, 2018, where the journalist had spoken to two writers of the film, and they were talking
Objection,
about rebooting the
hearsay.
franchise.
She's entitled to rely on hearsay, and she's just giving
But
the general. She's
not repeat it. Oh,
Objection, hearsay. The court tells them to approach. Okay, sidebar, the court. All right, so she can rely on hearsay. She's talking about too important. She was going to get into, I think, what the article said, so I'm not sure. Mrs. Bredoff, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm so sorry. The court, that's okay, it's loud. I was saying she can rely on hearsay to give her opinions, that's correct, but it sounded like she was starting to get into what the article is saying, and you just can't get into what the article is saying. You can say it's negative, it's whatever along those lines, but Ms. Bredoff, but it's not. The court, I don't know what she's going to say, so Ms. Bredoff, I think that we're trying to establish here, Your Honor, is that these articles were out before the op-ed. The court, right, Ms. Bredoff, and they were negative to Mr. Depp. The court, right, Ms. Bredoff, I think she's entitled to testify to that. The court, that's fine, but it's getting into exactly what the article said is the problem, because now she's just restating hearsay. Ms. Bredoff, but the court, she can rely on hearsay. Again, experts can, for the millionth time, Elaine, experts can rely on it, but they can't say what the hearsay is, Ms. Bredoff. They have to be able to at least characterize and say, oh my God. The court, if she's characterizing, saying it's negative press about Disney and Pirates of the Caribbean, yes, she can talk what it's about. She can't say what it says. Does that make sense? It doesn't. Ms. Bredoff, all right, let me see. Are you going to do a preview, Elaine? All right, let me see what I can do on that one, all right? The court, all right, Ms. Bredoff, thank you. Open court.
Elaine, this is basic. She is allowed to form an expert opinion based on hearsay. She is not entitled to repeat that hearsay in court verbatim and thereby introduce hearsay as evidence. She's allowed to introduce her opinion and what she's relying on, but she's not allowed to introduce or call for statements that are hearsay to be introduced through a third party. So you've got to ask better questions so that you get better answers. And what is happening is that she is not asking better questions, and therefore she is not getting better answers. This judge has been indelibly patient, but it is not Judge A's job to tell Elaine how to ask better questions. We are in week 6 of this trial. How are we still fighting over this, Elaine? It's just mind-boggling to me.
So without saying what the article said, say what it's about.
Ask better questions.
So in October 28th, the article was about whether the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise would be rebooted without.
Overruled.
Please continue. In the article in October 2018 was about whether or not the Pirates franchise was going to be what they call redefined without Johnny Depp. And that was regarding 2 writers that were on the project.
Has Mr. Depp continued to star in films?
Mr. Depp was able to do press for the film Waiting for the Barbarians. He went to the Deauville Film Festival. He went to the Venice Film Festival. He was well received at the press conferences.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were aware.
At the same level for him in terms of his popularity over in Europe.
I think a lot of us were aware of it.
Still, he was still working on press for the films. And then, of course, he was scheduled to film Fantastic Beasts in early November of 2020.
Because Fantastic Beasts, I think, can also be tied to the UK case.
What's the objection?
Yeah.
Can we approach?
Okay.
Why?
Mr. Dennison, objection, Your Honor. The court, what's the objection? Mr. Dennison, can we approach the court? Okay. Sidebar. Mr. Dennison, just don't want to get into this notion that he lost Fantastic Beasts over the UK judgment. Ms. Brodoff, I wasn't going to ask that, Mr. Dennison. Okay. Ms. Brodoff, thank you. The court, okay. Of course.
It's no longer the case, correct, on Fantastic Beasts. I don't want you to say anything more than that. That's no longer.
It's no longer the case, correct.
He's no longer in that film, correct?
He was paid for it, but he does not star in the film.
Okay, thank you. After the Depp Waldman statement,
This is an adversary proceeding. The only person who shouldn't be biased is the judge.
After the Depp Waldman statement, social media blew up
Adversary
with
proceeding.
negative tweets
One
and
side against the other.
Instagram posts and,
she's been
Facebook
hired
posts
by a
and
side.
Snapchat and trolling, as we call it. It was just negative. According to Mr. Schnell, there was over 1.2 million negative tweets about Amber using hashtags that used the words in the statement.
What were the hashtags?
Depp Waldman statements, excuse me.
What were the hashtags?
That 1.2 million negative statements between April of 2020 and November or January of 21. It's a lot of negative publicity. And there was just a lot of what we call noise around Ms. Heard and her work of any kind.
Can you please describe to the jury what a negative social campaign is?
So a negative social campaign would be when a fan base, or in this case, according to both the forensic statistical analyst as well as Ms. Heard's agents and the product that she was working with, L'Oreal, and her publicist, it was a campaign that included both live accounts, live Twitter, people that actually have are individuals, as well as what we call
objection. May I be heard?
All right, here come.
Sidebar. Mr. Dennison, Your Honor, you precluded Mr. Schnell from talking about the bots, and they're about to hear about the bots, Mrs. Bredoff. That was Mr. Schnell, not Miss Arnold. She relied on that separately. She had it in her. She was not. His were specifically Russian bots. Wow. Court. Well, we're not talking about bots. Okay, but you know who we have to mention here. Shout out to my little cutie pie Nightbot with his cute little hands and his little ear tassels. Nightbot, you're the cutest little bot in all of the bot world, in any world. Actually, the universe. Okay. Thank you for all you do in representing the squirrels of the world. The court. Well, we're not talking about bots, Ms. Bredoff. Jessica Kovacevic already testified about the bots. Those came in, Your Honor. The court. She doesn't have any foundation for that, Ms. Bredoff. She's relying on, in part, Jessica Kovacevic. What? You can't. The court. I'm going to sustain the objection of court. Look at this. All right, other than the bots, please. Jesus Christ.
So they're approaching regarding the bot accounts. I don't think we really got that deep into bot accounts with regard to the forensic social media analysis, whose testimony I was really interested in. And then it went off the rails into hashtag justice for Johnny Depp and hashtag Amber Turd and all those other hashtags and the negative press, but it didn't get into a percentage or proportion of bot accounts or anything like that. So I don't know how she can rely on that. It's not in evidence, but we will see. But they are trying to get to this negative PR campaign that, again, Amber Heard is going to say, but I've seen a lot of people saying this woman is biased. She's hired by Amber Heard's side. This is an adversary proceeding. So yes, there is going to be a lien that helps Amber. These are witnesses to help her.
Other than the bots, please describe the rest of the social media, the negative social media campaign.
Other than the bots. Thank you for reminding everyone about the bots.
The fan base was very energized by the Depp Depp.
Yeah, let me just
Depp Waldman. I'm sorry. I got out of my brain right now.
It doesn't matter. Why don't I do this?
It doesn't matter.
How has the negative social media campaign been used against Amber Heard?
It's your case in chief, Elaine. It should matter.
Statements.
It should matter.
So
to
the
you.
negative campaign has been used both to, let's fire Amber off of Aquaman, to the product that she had an endorsement contract with L'Oreal.
What would you have expected following the release of Aquaman?
And her agent got into this as well.
Up to what's going on now.
I like to call Aquaman really,
Jason Momoa.
Star is Born moment. It was that moment where not only was she a good actor, but she was now world renowned because she was in the most successful film almost of all time, if not all time, and certainly for DC Comics.
Stop
she
it.
was on the
You've lost
poster
me.
with the very handsome
I had
Jason
such
Momoa,
nice
and they
things
were
to
this
say about
couple,
you.
and she was
Most
strong
successful
and
movie of all
beautiful,
time.
and it was just this extraordinary moment for her career to take off.
It is an extraordinary moment. It's a huge
Her
film.
agents were excited. The producers were
big
excited.
budget film.
Everybody
It's a
just wanted to hit
superhero
the ground
film.
running and let's do more.
Everyone loves
Let's do more
Jason
work.
Momoa, but it's not
What
the
if
most
anything
successful
happened
movie
to
of all
Amber's
time.
Participation in Aquaman 2.
So for a moment in time in February 2021, there were conversations that Amber's, I'm going to be technical with you, her option for employment was not going to be exercised. So they may not have hired her again, even though she had a contract for it. There was some question as to whether she was going to be hired again on Aquaman 2.
All right. And did ultimately then she still get hired for Aquaman 2?
She did. Her management team fought very hard, and they ultimately
She said she
ended
fought
up
hard, not her
hiring her.
management
But also
team.
not only because of what her management team did, but Jason Momoa, the star, and James Wan, the director,
Jason Momoa did what?
committed to her in an email saying, "If we are involved with this movie,
Hearsay.
you will
Objection, no
Hearsay.
foundation, hearsay.
I'll sustain the
Don't
objection
say
for
what
hearsay.
the email said, just summarize it.
I
or
want to hear what
describe
Jason
it.
Momoa
Oh,
said as much as the
I'm
next
sorry, I'm just
girl,
trying to
but it's
understand
hearsay.
this world. So
You said you've testified like a
Her
million
management team
times. I'm just
worked
trying to understand this
and
world. It's always the
Jason
same.
Momoa and the director were adamant that she was in the film.
Objection, hearsay.
What
Hard.
The rules of
Your Honor,
hearsay
she
are
has to be able to
finite.
say that.
Your Honor, she doesn't have to be able to say that, Elaine.
So
Your Honor, she has to
What
be
if
able to say that.
any? It's general awareness that they had great chemistry.
It's general awareness.
And
They had
what
great
if
chemistry.
anything,
I'm out.
would also suggest, with respect to Aquaman 2, that Jason Momoa believed they had good chemistry.
Calls for hearsay.
He wanted her in the movie.
Okay.
She's slow, Dennison.
I think she has to be able to rely
She
on it.
doesn't have to be able to say it, though, Elaine. Relying on it and forming an opinion and saying it in court are two totally fucking different things.
In your review of all of the record evidence, what, if anything, did you see in writing anywhere that there was ever any chemistry or creative issue with Amber
She just
Heard
opened the door
and
for
Jason
that.
Momoa from Aquaman 1?
That's the
There
door
were no
opening.
communications whatsoever that there was no chemistry between the two.
And what, if anything, did you, in all the record evidence, did you see that the producer or Jason Momoa did not want Amber Heard in Aquaman 2?
I did not see any evidence of that.
Now, what, if any, leverage did Amber Heard have to renegotiate her salary under the circumstances of the discussions you were talking about with not exercising her option?
She had zero leverage. She was fighting for her life to stay in the film.
What, if any, opinions do you have about Amber Heard's earning power over time?
That it would continue to rise.
Minor court is still in session, please.
she's talking to the gallery. The jury's walking out and she's reminding the gallery that court's still in session. So they're taking the afternoon break. So they're approaching. So that's what's happening right now.
This is after their mid-afternoon recess, 15 minutes on the dot here. The bailiff, all rise. Please be seated and come to order. The court, all right. If we could have the witness. Miss Brow, can we approach real quick, Your Honor? The court, sure. While we do that, can we have the witness take the stand again? During our sidebar. Miss Brodoff, I didn't want to interrupt the flow, Your Honor, and I know we're going to do cross for a second. I just wanted to indicate that we would have called Bonnie Jacobs for the purpose of getting in her therapist notes. Of course you would. But Your Honor has already ruled on that hearsay. So all I wanted to do is say that we would have called her. Oh, she wants to put this in the record for appeal. But Your Honor has ruled on that. The court, that's fine. Miss Brodoff, I just didn't want to interrupt the flow. Mr. Dennison, so while we're up here, I just wanted to discuss this quickly. I think there was just another one. No, I think there was just a news release that they've decided not to call Mr. Depp. Until today, we were fully understanding that. The court, I don't know who's releasing news. Miss Brodoff, yeah, I don't either. Mr. Dennison, okay, thank you. The court, thank you. The witness, do I stand? The court, it's up to you.
All right,
I don't know.
Cross-examination.
Do you think they'll bring up the Warner Brothers press release?
Good afternoon, Ms.
Maybe.
Hello, how are you?
Great. We're great,
So
Dennison.
you repeatedly testified about what you were asked
goes to damages,
as the
yep.
Depp Waldman statements.
2 damages. Oh, let's make this bigger.
You don't have any knowledge whether Mr. Depp knew of the statements that Mr. Waldman made, do you?
Only with association with Mr. Waldman, correct?
You don't know when the first time Mr. Depp learned about those statements?
I don't know.
No. And the association you're talking about is that Mr. Waldman worked from time to time as Mr. Depp's attorney, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Very
may we
carefully.
approach?
Okay.
Real.
Sidebar, sidebar. It's another sidebar time. Time for us. I could just keep making up these songs. Miss Brado, this is Miss Brado, this is outside the scope of this witness, and Your Honor, this is. Remember that Mr. Waldman raised the attorney-client privilege for every single one of those questions, so the court, but you characterized it as the Depp Waldman statement. Miss Bradoff, I did, and I defined it in that way, but I did not go, she's just a damages expert. I did not go into any of the, whether he had knowledge, any of the agency, that's all outside the scope. This is just a witness who's saying, as a result of the court, what will be your next question, Mr. Dennison? I was almost done with that. The court, okay. Mr. Dennison, we had various questions about Depp Waldman statements, and I was just trying to get the court, okay, you can ask that. Miss Broth, okay.
So the association with Depp, again, to get to the Waldman statements being defamatory, you've got to get to the fact that Waldman was an agent for Depp at the time the statements were made and other things. So it's asking, why are you assuming that these statements are attributable to Depp? The judge looks dumbfounded. Like, is this the argument I'm hearing right now?
I understand that you're testifying as a damages expert.
So the court said kind of move on.
Hats, talking both about Mr. Depp's damages.
So the court said kind of move on,
about,
which is fair.
Ms. Heard's purported damages. Let's talk about Ms. Heard's damages first. You understand that you have to testify as to damages that resulted from the Waldman statements, correct?
That was my analysis.
Most of your testimony, however, was just simply testimony about things that occurred after the Waldman statements.
That's what I was tasked with, yes.
Right. The mere fact that there were activities after the Waldman statements doesn't establish that the Waldman statements caused any damages, does it?
When you look at the time frame of when the Waldman statements came out and you look at what was going on with Ms. Heard's career prior to the statements and what happened after the statements, it's very clear to make that correlation.
And correlation does not imply causation, does it, ma'am?
I'm not an expert in semantics.
Okay. But you're an expert who is purporting to say that Ms. Heard lost between $45 and $50 million.
Snappy.
I'm trying to understand where you
Correlation and
put the
causation
link
is not semantics,
between
though.
the Waldman statements and all the other activity that occurred since then.
As I stated and very clearly wanted to make sure that everybody understood was that it was a time frame between which the Waldman statements were made and the negative decline in her career.
I agree with you. It's not
started
semantics.
happening and in discussions with her agents and her publicists, there was a very tight timeline and a very close link.
It was
to
sassy.
when those statements came out and when everything
sassy.
started pulling
It was
away
funny,
from Ms.
though.
Heard.
Right, but
It's
what
funny.
you're talking about is just a link in time. You do not put any causal connection between what Mr. Waldman purportedly said and the damages that Ms. Heard purportedly suffered. You have no idea whether Mr. Waldman's statements
And again, this
caused
cuts
any
both
damage
ways.
to Ms. Heard, do you?
Well, actually, both the
Oh, I
words
think
in the
Dennison comes off as
statements were used as
condescending. He
hashtags
does.
in the campaign, as well as when the statistical and the investigative analysis was done on the social media campaign. It turned out that 1 in 4 of the statements had Waldman or Waldminian in them.
That's not the Waldman statements. That's a social media
I'm going to
campaign.
object, Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay. Huh. I wonder what they're approaching about.
Sidebar. Ms. Spreadhoff. The objection is that he's calling essentially for a legal conclusion. I didn't want to make that one from here. He's making legal argument of whether Mr. Depp is responsible for this, and that's not something that this witness would be. Mr. Dennison, that motion to eliminate that you decided relative to this made it clear that they have to establish causal connection. What damages, the witness has to establish a causal connection to damages, and that's all I'm trying to explore. Ms. Spreadhoff, this is very different from what he's arguing now. The court, you just can't elicit any legal conclusions. That's all, okay? Mr. Dennison, and the causal connection and legal conclusion are pretty close together. Court, I understand that, but if you leave it on causal connection, I understand causal connection, not legal. Ms. Brough, yeah, you can't ask her whether Mr. Depp is legally responsible for Mr. Dennison, right? The court, I'll sustain that. Back to him, court.
Yeah, it's got its cringy moments.
So I'm just looking for all evidence of the causal connection that you claim exists between
He
the
moved on.
$45 million in damages that you assert and the 3 statements made by Mr. Waldman.
Well, I also looked at Ms. Heard's career after the divorce proceedings and other lawsuits that she was either involved with or was discussed. And her career might have had a pause, but she was able to overcome that.
Do you know whether Warner Brothers was in discussions already with Amber Heard about scheduling her for Aquaman?
Thanks for
2?
finding the mic,
Objection, hearsay.
Elaine.
Do you know? I'm asking her whether you know.
I'll sustain as the hearsay.
Okay. Do you have knowledge of whether Aquaman was in discussions with Amber during that period?
Elaine.
Objection, hearsay.
I don't know how to.
I don't know how to
ask her foundation.
I don't know how to lay the foundation. Ask her, do you know?
How would you know?
No. Nope. That calls for speculation.
Well, Amber received an early draft of the script. Amber's agents were in discussions.
Objection, hearsay.
I think she can say that.
No, she can't say that, Elaine. I think she can
What
say
is-
that.
in
You're
your experience,
incorrect.
Based on getting scripts, what does that mean? I'm asking for experience.
In my experience with the movie as high profile as something like Aquaman, they keep the scripts very tight. They don't let anybody read them. They're numbered. They have your name on it. So if you're getting a script for a movie such as Aquaman that's kept tightly close to the vest, if you will, by the studio, you are going to, they want you to be in the movie. Otherwise, they would never give you the script.
Be done.
I have
done.
no further questions. Thank you.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Good.
Is this witness
Sit down.
subject to recall?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So you're still an expert, so you can have a seat in the courtroom.
I'm still
okay. You still are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we out? Are we safe?
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Roddenborn's
let's come
like
to the end of our day.
questioning his
All
life
right,
choices.
So please do not do any outside research tonight, and don't talk with anybody about the case, okay? And we'll see you in the morning, bright and early at 9 o'clock, right? Okay, thank you.
What a fucking long day.
All right, just a few planning notes.
Yes, please.
Okay. After testimony tomorrow, and we excuse the jury, we'll go ahead and have the proffers that you requested, Mr. Rottenborn. We'll do those tomorrow after. Is that okay?
Okay, proffers
Does that sound
tomorrow.
good? All right, we'll do those right after, like right now, tomorrow. Okay, that should give you with the proffers that you need to do for the record. Okay. All right, and then whenever all the testimony is done, possibly at this point it would be Thursday afternoon after the jury is excused. We'll go over the remaining jury instructions. I have 3 under advisement. We'll take up those, and we'll also, if there's any other from the evidence this week that we need to talk about, we can discuss those as well after the jury's gone on Thursday evening, or if earlier, if the evidence is done before then. Okay. And just as time's up to this minute.
Time.
The plaintiff has used 45 hours and 24 minutes. The defendant has used 57 hours and 6 minutes, which means the plaintiff has left 15 hours and 51 minutes, and the defendant has 4 hours and 9 minutes left.
Whoa.
Okay. So that's where we're at.
Whoa.
All right, anything else for this evening?
Your Honor, the last witness, it appears that is on the plaintiff's witness list is Mr. Depp, and I was just hoping we would get an answer as to when.
Defendant's witness list?
Yeah, defendant's witness list.
I don't know. Are you still changing witness? I'm not sure.
We're discussing.
Okay. Making a decision in the morning. Okay.
I thought he was as useless as a bicycle or a fish or something. All right. Well, there you have it, y'all. That was what happened this afternoon? Like, what? Seriously, what happened this afternoon? I don't know. That